Welcome to Mr. Sleepy Stories. Tonight, we'll speak softly about birds. They move through the sky like thoughts drifting between dreams, gentle, effortless, and free. Each feather holds a story of light, warmth, and wonder, shaped by air and time. From the hush of owls to the laughter of parrots, their lives unfold in rhythms that calm the mind. Together, we'll wander through quiet wings and distant skies, learning how even the smallest song can carry peace across the world. If you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, and share your experience with this video topic in the comments below. I love reading your stories and hearing how these calm facts help you unwind before sleep. High above the ocean, where clouds drift slowly and the horizon seems endless, a bird may be asleep even as it flies. Not fully, not like you and I close our eyes, but in a delicate balance between dreaming and alertness. Certain birds, like frigate birds and swifts, have learned something extraordinary. They can sleep while gliding through the sky. Scientists call it unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. It means that only one half of the brain rests while the other half remains awake. One eye stays open, one side of the body still responsive, and the bird continues its gentle, effortless flight. The other half of the brain, meanwhile, drifts into a state of calm rest, enough to restore its energy without losing control. It's nature's compromise, a balance between survival and serenity. Because for these birds, landing isn't always an option. Frigate birds, for example, can spend months in the air without touching the sea or land. They can't land on water. Their feathers aren't waterproof, and they'd drown if they tried. So instead, they glide. They drift above the waves, catching warm air currents, eyes half open, brain half asleep. When scientists studied these birds, they attached small EEG recorders to their heads and discovered that during long flights, they truly did fall asleep, but only in brief moments, just a few seconds at a time. Sometimes they rest both halves of their brain for a very short nap, but only when flying in safe, predictable air currents. It's a strange image, isn't it? A creature soaring through the clouds, gently dreaming with one eye open, letting the wind carry its body across the sky. In that state, time must feel like a slow river. No urgency, no stillness either, just motion and calm coexisting. There's something deeply peaceful about it. Humans need stillness to rest. We build nests of our own, beds, blankets, quiet rooms. But these birds show that rest doesn't always mean stopping. Sometimes rest is trust. Trust in the air beneath you. Trust in instinct. Trust that even while half asleep, you'll keep moving safely forward. When they finally return to land after weeks or months of flight, their bodies settle and they sleep fully, both halves of their brain at once. But up there, among the drifting clouds and silver winds, sleep becomes something else entirely. Not a pause, but a rhythm, a soft, silent partnership between awareness and peace. And maybe that's a gentle reminder for us, too, that rest can exist even in motion, and sometimes the calmest dreams happen when we're still moving forward. If you've ever watched a hummingbird hover near a flower, It almost doesn't seem real. Its wings blur into invisibility, its body hums with energy, and its tiny heart, no bigger than a grain of rice, beats more than 1,000 times every minute. That's faster than any warm-blooded creature on Earth. It's as if the little bird runs entirely on light itself, darting from bloom to bloom, drinking sweetness just to stay alive another hour. To live like that, every second counts. Hummingbirds burn through energy so fast that if they stop feeding for too long, they could literally starve overnight. They need constant fuel, not just to fly, but simply to exist. So nature gave them a second, quieter miracle to survive the darkness, a state called torpor. Torpor is like a deep, temporary sleep. When the sun goes down and flowers close, the hummingbird finds a safe perch, usually a thin branch hidden among leaves, and lets its body begin to slow. Its heart, once racing like a drum, drops from over 1,000 beats per minute to fewer than 50. Its temperature falls, its breathing slows, and it becomes so still that it almost looks lifeless. In that moment, the bird becomes a tiny ember in the cool night, a heartbeat flickering low, saving what little warmth it can. This isn't ordinary rest, it's survival through surrender. By lowering its own life's rhythm, it waits for morning, conserving every spark until the first light returns. And when it does, the transformation is instant. Warmth flows back through the tiny body, the heart roars to life again, and within seconds the bird is in the air, shimmering in sunlight as if reborn. Scientists studying hummingbirds often describe this daily cycle as living on the edge of possibility. They spend their days at the very peak of motion, heart racing, wings blurring, life condensed into pure motion, and their nights in near-death stillness. It's a delicate line between extremes. Too slow, and they freeze. Too fast, and they burn out. But they manage it perfectly every single day. There's something poetic about that balance. The idea that even the most energetic beings in nature need deep stillness to continue. The hummingbird, a symbol of life and motion, finds its peace not by stopping forever, but by learning how to pause just enough to begin again. So the next time you see one hovering in the garden, glowing like a spark of light in the air, remember that last night it was asleep like a fallen leaf, heart barely beating, waiting patiently for the sun to rise. Even the smallest hearts, it seems, know when to rest. Night settles over the forest, and the air feels thick enough to hold a secret. Through that stillness, something moves, unseen, unheard, graceful as the turning of a page. An owl glides between branches, and not a single sound follows its wings. To most birds, flight is a noisy affair. Pigeons clap their wings when startled, geese thunder overhead, even small sparrows flutter with tiny gusts, yet the owl cuts through the darkness like a thought, silent, precise, effortless. For generations, people called it a ghost of the woods, but its secret is not supernatural. It's scientific and astonishingly elegant. Look closely at an owl's feather under gentle light, and you'll see its edges aren't smooth. The front edge of each wing is lined with tiny comb-like serrations that slice the air into thin, separate streams. The trailing edge ends in soft fringes, breaking up turbulence that would normally create sound. And covering the entire surface is a layer of velvety microfibers so fine that they absorb the remaining noise before it can escape. In short, the owl's silence is built, layer by layer, into its body. This quiet isn't just beauty, it's survival. Owls are night hunters, depending entirely on hearing. Their prey, small rodents, insects, even fish, are sensitive to the faintest rustle. To catch them, the owl must be quieter than the breeze, quieter than its own heartbeat. It must erase itself from the world until the moment it strikes. When scientists measured owl flight with sensitive microphones, they discovered something almost eerie. While other birds produced strong sound waves, the owl's flight registered nearly nothing. Even the air behind it seemed calmer, as though the world conspired to keep its movement secret. Yet there's another layer to this silence, one that feels strangely peaceful. The owl is not in a hurry. It does not waste energy. It moves only when it must. In its quiet way, it teaches a lesson about patience, that stillness can be power, and silence can be full of purpose. Watch an owl resting on a branch, and you'll notice how everything about it feels tuned to calm. Its gaze is wide and steady, its breathing slow. Even its posture carries a kind of listening awareness, as though it belongs more to the night than to itself. Long before scientists studied it, poets and storytellers felt that same mystery. They said owls carried wisdom because they saw what others could not, and perhaps because they never needed to announce themselves to be heard. When dawn comes and the forest brightens again, the owl melts back into the trees, vanishing with the same quiet grace it arrived. The night exhales, the leaves move, and the silence it leaves behind feels like a kind of music. On a still lake under pale moonlight, two swans drift close together, their reflections touching like soft brushstrokes on water. Their necks curve toward each other in perfect symmetry, twin question marks meeting in the center, as though the night itself has paused to ask something gentle. This is how swans sleep. Unlike most birds, they rarely rest on land. The water is their cradle, a place that rocks them lightly, safe from predators that can't approach silently through ripples. When a pair sleeps side by side, they do so in quiet coordination, bodies aligned, necks bowed inward. One often keeps an eye half open, just in case the world stirs while the other drifts deeper into dreams. Swans are bonded creatures, known for their lifelong partnerships. Once two find each other, their connection becomes so strong that nearly every part of their behavior synchronizes. Their movements, their calls, even their heart rhythms during nesting season. Sleeping together is not just comfort, it's communication. It's trust expressed through stillness. During rest, a swan's long neck folds into a gentle curve, allowing the beak to tuck beneath a layer of feathers. This posture conserves warmth and keeps the delicate head steady even as the lake moves beneath it. The muscles at the base of their legs and neck remain subtly active, maintaining balance through tiny adjustments, like a slow waltz of invisible motion. It's a perfect balance of awareness and ease. In the early hours, mist sometimes drifts across the surface of the water, and the swans seem to disappear into it. Two faint outlines, breathing together. To watch them then is to feel something ancient, as though you're seeing a rhythm older than language, rest entwined with loyalty, sleep held in perfect symmetry. Scientists studying swans have noticed how pairs communicate even in near silence. A small movement of the wing, a shift in position, a soft sigh through the nostrils, all signal understanding. Their bond isn't maintained through constant noise, but through a shared calm. That calm extends to their rest. When one wakes, the other stirs moments later, as if tied by an invisible thread. People have long associated swans with love and purity, but perhaps their truest symbol is peace, not dramatic passion, but the quiet assurance of presence. They remind us that closeness doesn't always mean speaking or moving. Sometimes it simply means existing side by side, floating through the same stillness, trusting the same quiet water. As dawn stretches across the horizon, the swans begin to wake. Their necks lift, their wings unfold, and the mirrored shapes dissolve into motion. They glide away together, leaving soft ripples behind, a gentle reminder that even in rest, love can move like water, slow, silent, and endlessly steady. There's a bird that follows the sun across the edges of the world. Each year the Arctic tern leaves the icy northern seas and flies all the way to the farthest southern continent, and then back again. It's a journey of light, a migration so vast that no other creature experiences more daylight in a lifetime. When summer fades in the Arctic, most birds fly south to escape the cold. But the tern does something more ambitious. It doesn't simply flee winter, it chases summer itself. From Greenland or Alaska, it crosses oceans, passes over continents and waves until it reaches the Antarctic, where summer is just beginning. There it feeds and rests beneath a different sun. And when that season ends, it turns around and follows the light home again. The distance, more than 40,000 miles every year. That's like circling the earth almost twice, a journey powered only by wings lighter than paper and instincts older than civilization. Scientists have tracked these small white birds using tiny GPS tags, and what they found feels almost mythical. Arctic terns witness 2 summers every year, gliding through endless daylight while most of the world sleeps in shadow. In its lifetime, one tern may travel the equivalent of going to the moon and back, not once, but 3 times. Yet what makes this creature remarkable isn't just the distance, but its quiet purpose. The tern doesn't hurry. It moves with the rhythm of wind and ocean, resting where food is plentiful and air currents are kind. It doesn't chase warmth out of fear, but out of harmony, a living thread following the planet's breathing cycle. The result is a life almost free from night. For months, the tern flies through skies that never darken completely. It sees the glow of midnight suns, the gold of endless dawns, and the blue shimmer of polar seas reflecting light that never dies. Where we measure time by morning and evening, the tern lives in a world of constant becoming, where every horizon promises day. And when you picture that, a small bird tracing a glowing line across the earth, it feels like watching the planet turn through its eyes. The Arctic tern isn't searching for anything new. It already knows what it's looking for: the comfort of sunlight, the whisper of open water, the familiarity of flight. To us, its path seems impossible. To the tern, it's simply home in motion, a world without seasons, without walls, just air and light repeating forever. So while we close our eyes each night and drift into darkness, somewhere far above the waves, this tiny traveler is still awake, wings steady, heart sure, following the sun across another endless summer sky. On the cold shores of Antarctica, where wind sweeps across endless fields of snow, something tender unfolds among the ice. A penguin stands before its chosen mate, a small pebble clasped carefully in its beak. No flowers, no songs, just a single stone. It leans forward and offers it gently. If the other accepts, a partnership begins. Among Adelie and Gentoo penguins, this ritual marks the start of love, or at least the beginning of cooperation that feels close to it. The pebble isn't random, it's chosen with care, smooth, rounded, just the right size to fit among others. It's the building block of a future home. Penguins nest on rocky ground, where every stone helps keep their eggs dry above melting snow and icy puddles. But these pebbles are rare treasures in a frozen world. So a perfect one isn't just practical, it's precious. A penguin that finds a beautiful pebble and gifts it shows thoughtfulness, resourcefulness, and devotion all at once. Scientists have watched these exchanges with quiet fascination. They've seen males waddle across long distances to find the perfect stone, testing each one as though it carries meaning. They've seen mates rearrange the gifted pebbles together, side by side, creating a small circle, a nest that will cradle their shared eggs through fierce winds and long nights. Sometimes rivals steal pebbles from other nests, sneaking them away when no one's watching. But even then, the courtship gesture remains deeply symbolic. In a world where survival depends on cooperation, offering something small and useful becomes the truest expression of care. There's a quiet poetry in that act. Love stripped of everything unnecessary. No performance, no sound, just a gesture that said, "I thought of you." Each pebble tells a story of effort and patience. It carries warmth even in a place made entirely of ice. Once the nest is built, the pair will take turns guarding their eggs, one standing watch while the other hunts. When they switch, they greet with soft trills and gentle touches of their beaks, like two old friends reuniting. Over time, they come to recognize each other's voices, even in vast colonies of thousands, where calls echo across the snow. And it all begins with one simple gift. In a way, penguins remind us that love doesn't have to be grand to be real. It can live in quiet moments, a shared task, a thoughtful offering, a promise to stand together through cold seasons. Somewhere on the Antarctic coast tonight, a penguin may still be carrying a stone in its beak, searching for the one that feels right. When it finds it, it will offer it gently, believing in its own wordless way that this small thing might build something lasting. A dove sits before a mirror, tilts its head, and blinks. For a moment, it seems puzzled by the silent twin staring back. Then it moves again, not to challenge or greet the reflection, but to study it, as though searching for something familiar. What scientists discovered from that small, tender moment changed how we think about awareness in animals. The dove knew it was looking at itself. Self-recognition, the ability to understand that the image in a mirror is me and not another creature, is a rare thing in nature. Humans have it. So do dolphins, elephants, and a few great apes. But birds? For a long time, we thought their intelligence was purely instinctive. Brilliant in behavior, yes, but mechanical in thought. Then came the doves. Researchers used what's called the mirror mark test. They placed a small, harmless spot of color on a dove's body in a place it couldn't see directly, like under its beak. When the bird looked into a mirror, some ignored the spot, but others pecked gently at the reflection and then touched the same spot on their own feathers. That tiny act meant something profound. They understood that the reflection was not another dove. It was themselves. It's a quiet revelation, not dramatic, not showy, but deeply meaningful. To recognize yourself is to hold a thread of awareness, to sense that you exist as an individual being. For the dove, a creature known mostly for its calm nature and soft coos, this awareness feels like another form of peace, the peace of knowing where you begin and end. Birds' brains are small, yet incredibly efficient. They pack as many neurons as primates into much smaller spaces, wiring intelligence into compact perfection. The dove's moment of recognition hints that consciousness doesn't require size or complexity, only connection, awareness, and the quiet ability to reflect, both literally and inwardly. There's something poetic about the idea of a dove, long seen as a symbol of purity and peace, also being capable of introspection. When it gazes into glass and understands what it sees, it joins a very small family of creatures that can look upon themselves with recognition rather than confusion. And isn't that a kind of grace? To know oneself, even without words? We often look at animals and see simplicity, but sometimes it's the stillest creatures that hold the most subtle depths. A dove doesn't need to speak to prove its understanding. Its silence carries wisdom of its own kind. It can soar through open skies, coo softly in the morning light, and when faced with its own reflection, pause, not to fight, not to flee, but simply to see. In that reflection, the world seems smaller, softer, and more connected. A quiet reminder that self-awareness doesn't belong only to us, but perhaps to every being that learns to look gently inward. Far out over the ocean, beyond the reach of ships or shorelines, a white bird glides through endless wind. Its wings stretch wider than a grown human's height, yet they barely move. The albatross lives where the world has no edges, circling the globe on wings made for infinity. For years, sailors told stories of these birds following ships through storms, appearing and vanishing like spirits of the sea. Only later did scientists learn the truth. The albatross doesn't simply follow. It travels farther than almost any other living creature on Earth, sometimes flying around the entire planet without landing once. The secret lies in a remarkable skill called dynamic soaring. Instead of beating its wings constantly, the albatross reads the wind like an artist reading a canvas. It glides close to the water, then rises sharply into stronger air currents above the waves. Each motion captures energy from the difference in wind speed, a silent exchange between air and instinct. With this rhythm, it can fly thousands of miles without ever flapping its wings. Tracking devices have revealed journeys that seem almost impossible. Some albatrosses have crossed the Pacific, looped around Antarctica, and returned to their starting point all within a single year. Their routes trace invisible lines across oceans, elegant and effortless, shaped only by the wind. At sea, rest happens in motion. Albatrosses sleep while gliding, eyes half shut against the silver horizon, their bodies carried by steady air. They feed on squid and fish near the surface, dipping into the waves for moments before lifting again into the boundless sky. Land comes only when necessary, to nest, to raise a chick, to start another cycle of wandering. There's something almost meditative in the way they live, not fighting the wind, but surrendering to it. Each movement is precise, economical, and patient. They do not rush, they flow. In a world obsessed with speed, the albatross reminds us that endurance is its own kind of grace. To sailors, seeing one meant luck, a symbol that the vastness could still be kind. But killing one was believed to bring misfortune because these birds seemed to carry the soul of the sea itself. Coleridge's old poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, turned that idea into legend, but the truth needs no story. The albatross is already poetry, written in air and salt. As dusk falls on the open ocean, the bird continues its path, miles from any land or voice. Below, waves roll like breathing. Above, the stars begin their slow bloom, and still the albatross glides on, wings unwearied, heart steady, tracing the curve of the earth with the patience of eternity. In daylight, a parrot already looks like a living rainbow, bright greens, golds, blues, and reds shimmering across its feathers. But under a kind of light we can't see, that beauty grows even deeper. In the invisible spectrum of ultraviolet light, a parrot glows. To human eyes, ultraviolet light is hidden. It sits just beyond violet on the color scale, outside the limits of what our retinas can detect. But to many birds, it's part of everyday vision. Their eyes have an extra type of color receptor, a fourth cone cell, that allows them to see a world far richer than ours. Where we see smooth green, a parrot might see layers of pattern and glow, luminous and alive. When scientists first shone ultraviolet light on parrot feathers, they were astonished. Feathers that looked ordinary in daylight suddenly erupted in radiant blues, violets, and neon greens. Even species that appeared plain to us carried intricate markings visible only under that light. Those hidden colors weren't decoration. They were communication. In a dense forest filled with noise and motion, parrots use color the way humans use language. What we can't see might be how they recognize each other, how they choose mates, how they quietly say, "I belong to you." The fluorescence, light absorbed and re-emitted by parrot pigments, acts like a gentle beacon, glowing softly in wavelength meant for avian eyes alone. To them, the world must shimmer constantly. Leaves reflecting faint ultraviolet rays, water gleaming with unseen hues, and feathers glowing with hidden messages. What looks simple to us, a green parrot resting on a branch, might appear to another bird as a masterpiece of shifting light. It's humbling, really, to realize that our eyes are limited. We walk through a world more colorful than we can imagine, yet only glimpse a fraction of its spectrum. Every day, the unseen hums quietly around us, in the ultraviolet glow of flowers, in the markings on butterfly wings, in the faint shimmer of a parrot preening in the sun. Nature keeps some of its beauty secret, perhaps as a reminder that not everything must be visible to be real. For parrots, this hidden light is part of their ordinary joy. It's how they find partners, recognize kin, and live among colors that belong only to them. To us, their brilliance ends where our sight stops, but for them, the air itself must feel painted. So when a parrot turns its head and the sunlight ripples across its feathers, remember, what we see is only the beginning. Beyond that gleam lies another world of light, silent, radiant, invisible to us, but perfectly clear to them. In the middle of a garden, a robin stands still, chest bright as sunrise, body tense with quiet purpose. It takes a step, pauses, then tilts its head sharply toward the ground, as if listening for a secret beneath the soil. For centuries, people believed that's exactly what it was doing, listening for the sound of worms moving underground. But the truth is gentler and far more clever. The robin isn't hearing, it's seeing. Robins, like many birds, have their eyes positioned on the sides of their heads. That means they can't focus both eyes on the same point in front of them the way we can. Instead, they use one eye at a time, a method called monocular vision. When a robin tilts its head, it's not turning an ear toward the earth. It's aligning one eye so it can see the faint shimmer of movement, the tiny shift of soil, the delicate outline of a worm just below the surface. Its gaze is mathematical, patient, precise. The robin's world is made of small details most of us overlook. The soft glisten of damp ground, the faint pulse of something alive beneath a leaf. Even a single blade of grass can carry meaning. Every pause, every tilt of its head is a calculation between light and motion, timing and instinct. Scientists have confirmed this with slow-motion studies. Watching robins in controlled conditions, the birds respond to sight, not sound, striking accurately when they see a twitch or ripple, even in total silence. Their heads tilt not to hear, but to align geometry and focus, turning one bright eye into a living lens. And yet, to anyone watching, it still looks like listening. There's something beautifully human in that illusion, the posture of curiosity, the patience to stop and wait. The robin stands still while the rest of the garden moves, leaves shifting, bees humming, wind whispering through the branches. It remains focused on the quiet language of the ground. When it finally strikes, the motion is quick and clean. One step, one dart, and the worm is caught. Then it hops away with soft satisfaction, chest puffed proudly, as if it solved a tiny riddle only nature could set. Perhaps that's what makes robins so easy to love. They bring intelligence into simplicity, proof that thought doesn't always need complexity or noise. Sometimes awareness is just the art of noticing small things deeply. So the next time you see a robin tilt its head in the morning light, remember, it isn't listening for something beneath the soil. It's looking, quietly, attentively, at a world we rarely stop long enough to see. Deep in the misty forests of Australia, a single bird sings, and the forest sings back. Its song shifts shape with every breath. The call of other birds, the rustle of wings, the crack of branches, the faint echo of footsteps on leaves. Then suddenly, something uncanny, the click of a camera shutter, the wail of a distant car alarm, even the sound of human laughter, all from one throat. This is the lyrebird, nature's most gifted mimic, a creature that doesn't just sing, but remembers. The lyrebird's name comes from its tail, a sweeping fan of feathers that opens like a lyre, the ancient harp of Greek myth. But it's the voice that makes it unforgettable. Within its syrinx, the bird's voice box, lies some of the most flexible muscles in the animal world. They allow it to control pitch, tone, and rhythm so precisely that it can copy almost any sound it hears. Each imitation is perfect, down to the smallest detail. Males use this talent during courtship, standing on forest logs and performing elaborate vocal displays. In a single performance, one might mimic dozens of species, whistling birds, croaking frogs, even chainsaws from faraway logging sites. It doesn't know what a chainsaw is, of course. It only knows the shape of sound. To a female lyrebird, such skill means intelligence, experience, and strength, the marks of a good partner. But to us, its mimicry feels almost mystical. It's as if the lyrebird is recording the world's memories, the living and the mechanical, the wild and the human, and weaving them into music. A rainforest may go silent, yet the lyrebird keeps its voice alive, carrying echoes of what once filled the air. One recorded bird imitated not just other species, but also camera shutters and the sound of a ranger's radio crackling through static. Another reproduced the rhythm of hammering, as if the forest itself remembered being touched by human hands. Even laughter, soft, uncanny, almost tender, has been heard from its song. There's a strange peace in that idea, that nature listens so deeply it can reflect us back to ourselves. The lyrebird doesn't judge the noises it repeats. It simply holds them, reshapes them, and sends them gently into the air again. In its song, chainsaws and laughter become equal parts of a shared landscape. When the lyrebird finishes, the forest falls quiet again, but the silence feels full, as though the world has just heard itself breathe. Somewhere between memory and melody, the bird keeps its rhythm steady, repeating what life has taught it, one sound at a time. And as the echoes fade, the forest seems to exhale, reminded that even noise, in the right voice, can become something beautiful. Beneath the soft down of a nesting hen, the world is dim and warm. Hidden beneath her feathers lie fragile white eggs, each one still and silent to the eye, yet alive with quiet sound. Inside those tiny shells, life is already listening. A gentle cluck from the mother, a faint tremble in response. The conversation has begun. Long before a chick ever sees daylight, it begins to hear the voice of its mother. As the embryo grows, tiny bones in its developing ears harden just enough to catch vibrations through the shell. The mother hen, resting patiently on her nest, murmurs low rhythmic clucks, soft, steady, and familiar. Each sound travels through her feathers and into the eggs, like a lullaby wrapped in warmth. Soon, faint peeps return from inside. The chicks are learning their first language. Scientists have recorded this delicate exchange, a true dialogue, not just noise. The chicks respond when their mother calls, even before hatching. In the final days before birth, this communication helps them synchronize their emergence. When one chick begins to pip, the first small tap that cracks the shell, others follow within hours. They know it's time because they've been listening all along. It's not just timing, it's connection. Those early sounds help form a bond so strong that once the chicks hatch, they recognize their mother's voice instantly. In the noisy bustle of a barnyard, that recognition becomes their compass. One call from her, and they hurry close, trusting the voice that spoke to them before they ever saw the world. There's something deeply moving about that. The idea that communication begins in darkness, carried by warmth and rhythm. It reminds us that love doesn't always need sight or language. Sometimes it's simply the comfort of knowing a familiar sound. To a chick, that low cluck is safety. To the hen, each tally peep beneath her is proof that life is waiting, responding, breathing, ready. In nature, this kind of prenatal bonding isn't unique to chickens, but it's one of the most tender examples we can hear. It's as though nature made sure that even before life begins, it's already reaching outward, listening, answering, belonging. When the eggs finally crack open and the chicks stumble into the light, their world is new but not strange.
The air is brighter, the sounds louder, but the mother's voice is already known, a melody they've been hearing in dreams. She clucks again, and they chirp back. The rhythm continues, unchanged, a conversation that started in silence and never really stopped. Under feathers, in warmth, in sound, it's the story of life whispering to life. On salt flats, where the water glows at sunset, flamingos stand like reflections of the sky, tall, graceful, blushing with color. But beneath that beauty lies a quiet secret. They weren't born pink at all. Each one began pale and ordinary, its feathers nearly white. Their famous color isn't inherited, it's created day by day through what they eat. Flamingos live on algae, small crustaceans, and tiny shrimp that thrive in the shallow lakes and lagoons they call home. These foods contain carotenoids, natural pigments also found in carrots and autumn leaves. Inside the flamingo's body, those pigments break down and bind to proteins in feathers, skin, and even the beak. The result is the soft coral hue we know so well. The more they eat, the deeper the color grows. It's a slow transformation. Chicks hatch gray, downy, and clumsy, more like awkward geese than elegant dancers. Over months, as they feed and grow, the color begins to bloom from within, feather by feather, until they glow with gentle warmth. Their beauty is not painted on, it's nourished, formed quietly by what they sustain them. In large colonies, the shade of pink tells a story. Brighter birds are often older, healthier, and better fed. During courtship displays, those vivid feathers matter, not just for attraction, but as a signal of vitality. Flamingos perform synchronized dances, turning and bowing together, a sea of pink and white shifting in unison. Their color, glowing under sunlight, becomes a shared celebration of life and endurance. Scientists have found that flamingos kept in captivity without the right pigments in their diet gradually fade to pale gray. Their beauty depends entirely on nourishment, a perfect reminder that even in nature, radiance is not decoration, but reflection. They are what they consume. Their color is their story. There's a quiet poetry in that transformation. Each bird carries the memory of the waters it feeds from, the microscopic life that sustains it, the sunlight captured by algae that becomes pigment, that becomes feather, that becomes grace. Color, in this case, isn't something added, it's something revealed. And maybe that's why flamingos feel so peaceful to watch. They move slowly, deliberately, wading through still water, like brushstrokes on a canvas painted by time. Their pink is gentle, not loud, a hue that whispers of patience, nourishment, and belonging. When dusk falls and their reflections shimmer on the surface, it's hard to tell where the bird ends and the color begins. The lake glows softly, the sky deepens, and the flamingos stand quiet in their shared light, creatures who have turned what they eat into what they are. In the quiet of a field, a single black shape lies still. Moments later, dark wings begin to gather overhead, one, then two, then dozens. They land nearby in a slow, deliberate circle, voices hushed. For a few minutes the air fills with soft calls, low, questioning, almost mournful. Then silence. The crows have come to pay attention. To what exactly, no one can say for certain, but it looks like grief. Scientists call these gatherings crow funerals, and they've been witnessed all over the world. When a crow dies, others nearby will approach cautiously, sometimes landing near the body, sometimes only watching from the trees. They don't eat, they don't touch much. They simply stand together, alert, still, aware. After a time, they fly away again, leaving the fallen one behind. To us, it feels ceremonial. To the crow, it may be instinct, a way to study danger. Researchers observing these events found that when crows see one of their own dead, their brains light up with activity linked to learning and memory. They seem to recognize the moment as important, something to remember, something that changes their understanding of safety. Afterward, they avoid the area for days, even weeks. It's not mourning in the human sense, perhaps, but it is acknowledgement, an understanding that something significant has happened. Yet there's more to it than pure caution. Crows are among the most intelligent birds on Earth. They recognize faces, form long friendships, and remember acts of cruelty or kindness for years. They play, they cooperate, they even bring gifts to people who feed them regularly. So when a group gathers around one of their own, standing silent under gray skies, it's hard not to see something familiar, an echo of empathy, a flicker of connection that bridges species. Observers describe the mood of these gatherings as calm but heavy. There's no panic, no chaos, just presence. One crow might give a soft call, almost like a sigh, before flying off. The others follow, one by one, leaving the place still again. It's humbling, really. The idea that creatures so often seen as ominous could also embody such quiet dignity. In myth, crows have been symbols of death, but maybe they've simply understood it longer than we have. Where we bring flowers, they bring attention. Where we whisper prayers, they stand in silence. Both are forms of respect. Somewhere tonight, a group of crows may be gathered beneath bare trees, their black feathers blending into dusk. No words, no rituals, just a moment of stillness in a restless world. And in that hush, there's something that feels very much like love. Not loud or sentimental, but aware. A recognition that life, once present, deserves to be noticed as it leaves.
Hold a feather in your hand, and you can feel how light the sky must be. But the secret to flight lies not only in feathers or wings, it's written deep within the bones. Every bird carries the blueprint of air in its very frame. Their bones are hollow, yet astonishingly strong, nature's quiet equation for balance. At first thought, a hollow bone sounds fragile. Empty things break easily, don't they? But the truth is beautifully counterintuitive. Inside a bird's bones are delicate crossbeams, thin internal struts that connect the outer walls like the framework of a cathedral. These tiny supports distribute stress evenly, giving each bone a strength far beyond its weight. It's the same principle engineers use in bridges and aircraft. Remove what isn't needed and strengthen what remains. The result is a skeleton built not for sturdiness on land, but for grace in the air. A pigeon's bones weigh less than its feathers. An eagle's wings stretch wide on frames that seem impossibly light. Even large birds like swans or albatrosses depend on this structure. Without it, flight would be impossible. Scientists call these air-filled bones pneumatic bones. They're connected to the bird's respiratory system, filled with air sacs that help circulate oxygen through the body during flight. Each breath moves not only through the lungs, but also through the skeleton itself, turning bone into part of the breathing process. Every motion, every wingbat becomes a symphony of lightness and strength working together. And yet these bones can endure immense force. When a bird takes off, lands, or folds its wings in midair, pressure moves through its frame in perfect harmony. The hollow design bends slightly under stress, then recovers. Flexible, resilient, efficient. It's a lesson nature seems to whisper. Strength isn't always about being solid. Sometimes it's about balance. When you watch a bird soar, you're witnessing millions of years of refinement, the Earth's patient craftsmanship made visible. Each bone a sculpture of necessity, each hollow space a choice carved by evolution. Even the air inside serves purpose. It lightens, cools, sustains. Nothing wasted, nothing accidental. In a world that often equates heaviness with importance, birds remind us that lightness can also be powerful. Their bodies aren't weighed down by excess. They rise because they carry only what's essential. The sky doesn't ask them to be heavy. It asks them to trust their design. Somewhere above the trees, a heron glides on slow wings, body steady, bones hollow, heart calm. It moves not by force, but by flow, carried by air, supported by emptiness, made strong by the very space within. And perhaps that's the most elegant truth of all, that what makes them lighter also makes them last. Across the evening sky, tiny shapes dart and twist like sparks carried by wind. They move with a freedom so pure it feels almost impossible that they belong to the earth at all. These are swifts, birds that spend nearly their entire lives in flight, sometimes gliding through months of sky without once touching the ground. While most birds live in rhythm with land, nesting, perching, pausing, swifts belong to air alone. Their wings are long and curved, their legs small and suited only to clinging briefly to vertical surfaces. To land on flat ground would be a mistake. They could barely take off again. So instead they stay aloft, feeding, drinking, even sleeping as they move through the open sky. Scientists studying swifts attached tiny tracking devices to their bodies and found something almost unbelievable. Some individuals spent up to 10 months without landing. They soared across continents, followed weather fronts, and crossed oceans, all without rest in the way we understand it. To them, flight isn't a journey. It's a way of being.
High above the clouds, where winds are steady and gentle, swifts glide in great circles. At night they enter a light sleep, half of their brain resting while the other half stays awake. The same miraculous adaptation seen in other aerial sleepers. Even their dreams, we might imagine, are filled with movement. They feed on tiny insects carried by air currents, invisible banquets floating through sunlight. Rainwater and mist provide what little they need to drink. Everything essential to their lives drifts on the same invisible roads they follow. For a swift, the sky itself is home, bed, and table. When they finally come down, it's to breed. They return to old nesting sites, often cliffs, towers, or rooftops, where they reunite with lifelong mates. For a few short weeks, they touch the earth, raise their young, and then return to the vastness again, as though gravity is a temporary agreement. Watching them, it's hard not to feel a kind of reverence. To live almost entirely in flight, to let go of stillness and yet remain at peace, feels like a secret only nature could teach. Where other creatures rest to recover, swifts rest while continuing forward. Their sleep is motion, their calm is endurance. At dusk, when they sweep across the sky in long arcs, calling softly to one another, they seem like living fragments of wind, bound not by land, but by rhythm. They remind us that rest doesn't always mean stopping, and home isn't always a place that can be touched. For some, it's simply the air that holds them, the endless sky that never lets them fall. When the world grows quiet and the first shadows settle over the trees, a single voice begins to writhe. It isn't a chorus or a call for company. It's one bird, alone in the dark, filling the air with a song so rich and complex it sounds almost human in its emotion. This is the nightingale, and its most beautiful music is born in solitude. Unlike many birds that sing to attract attention, the nightingale's song belongs to the hours when others rest. Under moonlight, when the forest stills and even insects grow silent, it begins its performance. Long, flowing phrases of notes that ripple, rise, and fall like breath. No two songs are ever the same. Each one is improvised, filled with trills, whistles, and sudden bursts of melody that feel spontaneous, as if the bird is composing in real time. Scientists say the reason lies partly in competition. Males sing most passionately when alone to claim their territory, letting others know this space is taken. But there's something deeper in the way it sings, a sincerity that doesn't sound like warning, but longing. The nightingale's voice carries warmth, restraint, and a kind of purity that resonates even with human hearts. For centuries, poets and musicians have written about that song, how it seems to express sadness and beauty at once, like joy remembered in quietness. Perhaps that's why the nightingale became a symbol of the soul, a creature that speaks most truthfully when unseen. Its song is a conversation with silence itself. In daylight, the same bird grows modest, quiet, blending into the branches, almost invisible. Its feathers are plain brown, unremarkable compared to brighter species. Nothing about its appearance suggests its gift. But when the light fades, the plain bird transforms into an orchestra. Its voice can carry for miles through the still air, delicate yet powerful, every note clear, every pause intentional. Researchers have recorded thousands of variations in the nightingale's songs, finding complex structures that rival human music in rhythm and phrasing. They repeat themes, shift tones, even pause at moments that feel deliberate. To another nightingale, those patterns are a language, but to us, they sound like something closer to emotion. There's beauty in how it chooses to sing alone, not for applause, not for noise, just for the act itself, the release of sound into stillness, the way light spills into darkness. It's as though the bird knows that solitude isn't emptiness, it's space where truth can echo. When dawn finally returns and the song fades, the forest feels changed, not louder, but somehow more alive. And somewhere deep in the branches, the nightingale rests unseen once more, carrying within it the simple, ageless lesson it offers every night, that sometimes the most beautiful voices are the ones that bloom in quiet company with themselves.
Across frozen valleys and pale forests, the snow lies silent until a dark shape cuts through the white. A raven, gliding low, calling softly. Not far away, wolves move through the drifts, their paws soundless but sure. It would seem they come from different worlds, one bound to earth, the other to sky, and yet somehow they play together. Scientists have watched this unlikely friendship unfold across the coldest places on Earth. When wolves hunt, ravens follow. They've learned that where wolves go, food will appear, and in return they offer sharp eyes and quick signals from above. They call out when herds move or when danger approaches, circling the pack like black comets against white clouds. And when the hunt is done, they feast together. Wolves on the main share, ravens on the scraps left behind. It's a partnership of instinct, not words, but it works. But what surprises researchers most isn't cooperation, it's play. Ravens have been seen swooping low to tug gently at a wolf's tail, then darting away before the wolf can react. Sometimes the wolf chases, sometimes it only looks up, as though smiling through its eyes. There are moments when ravens drop sticks in front of wolves, wait for them to notice, and then snatch them back, laughing in croaks. In other moments, wolves roll in the snow while ravens circle above, mimicking their movements like companions in a game. This behavior isn't survival, it's joy. Both animals are among the most intelligent in the wild, and both seem to recognize something kindred in the other: curiosity, boldness, mischief. They share an understanding that life, even in harshness, can hold room for fun. One biologist described watching a raven and a wolf pup chasing each other through falling snow, taking turns leading and following, both careful never to harm. When the game ended, they simply sat near each other, quiet, content, breathing the same cold air. Moments like that remind us that emotion and connection aren't limited to humans. They live in other forms too, in gestures, glances,
small acts of trust. In many indigenous legends, ravens and wolves are companions of spirit, bound by balance, the sky's watcher and the land's hunter, moving as one story. And maybe those old stories were never metaphor at all, but observation, a recognition that some friendships are written directly into the world itself. When the snow thickens and the forest grows silent again, the ravens lift off, tracing dark spirals above the moving pack. The wolves look up once, then continue forward, leaving trails that gleam faintly under the winter sun. For a while, sky and earth move together, wild, wordless, and perfectly in tune.
In the quiet of an open field at night, a pale shape glides low over the grass. No rustle, no flap, no cry, just silence and motion. It's a barn owl, ghostly in color, graceful in flight. And while its wings carry it through the darkness, it's the face, that strange, beautiful, heart-shaped mask that guides it to life beneath the surface. At first glance, the owl's face looks like art, symmetrical, white, edged with soft gold, and framed in feathers that seem painted by careful hands. But this perfect shape isn't decoration, it's design. The barn owl's face acts like a satellite dish, capturing and directing sound toward its ears. Every curve funnels the faintest whisper of noise, the twitch of a mouse in the grass, the flutter of a moth's wings, into perfect clarity. Unlike humans, owls don't rely on sight at night. Their world is built from sound, and their hearing is astonishing. Each ear sits at a slightly different height on the head, one higher, one lower, allowing the owl to sense exactly where a sound is coming from, not just left or right, but above or below. With both facial discs working together, it can locate prey in total darkness with pinpoint accuracy, striking precisely even without seeing. Scientists have tested this ability in controlled darkness, and the results are breathtaking. A barn owl can detect and catch a mouse using only sound, guided by the faintest rustle from several meters away. Its heart-shaped face isn't just cute, it's one of the most sophisticated natural instruments ever evolved. Yet there's something poetic about how form and function meet here. That heart shape, symbol of gentleness, is also a tool of power. In silence, it listens more deeply than most living creatures can. Where we rely on light, the owl trusts air, the smallest vibration, the briefest shift. It knows the world not by seeing it, but by hearing it breathe. When you look closely, you can see the faint texture of the feathers that shape this natural sound dish. Hundreds of them, perfectly aligned, each one catching and curving air in harmony. It's the architecture of awareness, built from patience and precision. As the owl glides away, the field returns to stillness. Nothing disturbs the grass. Somewhere beneath, a tiny life ends quickly, a balance kept, a rhythm continued. And above, the barn owl's pale face turns once more, scanning the night like a living instrument of silence and sound. There's beauty in that balance, not fierce or violent, but exact and calm. The heart-shaped mask is not a symbol of emotion,
but of listening. And maybe that's love, too. Not what's seen, but what's understood in perfect quiet.
In the dappled light of an Australian forest, a small bird works like an artist preparing an exhibition. He hops across the leaf-littered ground, carrying a single blue petal in his beak. Around him rises a small archway of twigs woven with care, not a nest for sleeping or shelter, but a stage for beauty. This is the bowerbird, and his craft is art. Male bowerbirds spend weeks constructing and decorating their bowers, delicate structures built purely to impress potential mates. Unlike nests, which are made for raising young, bowers serve no practical purpose except to display creativity. Each bird chooses his materials with precision: shells, berries, flowers, and in modern times, even bottle caps or bits of glass. Color matters deeply. Some species prefer blue, others green or yellow. They collect hundreds of items, sorting them by hue and shine, arranging them carefully so that the colors fade gradually from bright to pale, a perfect gradient only nature could inspire. Observers have compared their bowers to art galleries. The male often clears the surrounding area of leaves and debris, creating a clean floor to highlight his display. He positions every object deliberately, adjusting angles and patterns as light changes through the day. Sometimes he even paints, crushing berries or charcoal in his beak and using the mixture to stain the walls of his bower. It's not random instinct, it's composition. When a female arrives, he begins his performance. He dances around his creation, holding bright objects, presenting them one by one. He sings softly, sometimes mimicking other birds or sounds from the forest, as if every sense must join the show. If she is impressed, she'll follow him to a separate nest, built elsewhere, to raise their chicks. If not, he starts again, refining, rearranging, improving. Art, like love, takes practice. To scientists, this behavior reveals extraordinary intelligence and aesthetic awareness. Each bowerbird seems to develop a personal style. Some prefer symmetry, others favor cluttered abundance. Their choices reflect not just instinct, but individuality, a kind of personality expressed through color and form. There's something deeply peaceful about watching one at work. In a world driven by survival, this little bird still finds time to create something purely beautiful. No audience, no permanence, just a moment of color before wind or rain washes it away. And yet he builds again each season, certain that beauty once made is always worth remaking. When evening light fades through the canopy, the bower glows faintly with collected color. The bird steps back, tilts his head, and seems for just a second to admire it. A creature of instinct, yes, but also of wonder. Proof that even in the smallest hearts there's room for art. When night falls and the chatter of the cage quiets, the parakeets close their eyes. Their feathers puff slightly. Their heads turn gently into the softness of their backs, and the room fills with stillness. For a moment, it seems they've vanished into simple rest. But inside their tiny skulls, light flickers again. Somewhere deep within that calm,
The parakeets are dreaming. Just like humans, birds pass through stages of sleep. Among them is REM, rapid eye movement, the phase when the mind begins to replay, imagine, and feel. Scientists studying parakeets sleeping noticed small telltale movements, wings twitching, eyelids fluttering, soft murmurs too faint to be songs. Under tiny lids, their eyes dart back and forth, following invisible motion. It's the unmistakable rhythm of dreaming. In this state, their brains look remarkably similar to ours. Electrodes placed gently on their heads show bursts of electrical activity, as if they're reliving the day. Flights across the room, familiar voices, flashes of color and sound. They seem to dream of motion, of companionship, of familiar routines. Some even emit faint chirps, like fragments of daytime songs returning in sleep. No one can say for certain what a bird dreams, of course. Dreams are private places, even for humans. But researchers believe animal dreams serve a similar purpose, to strengthen memory, organize experience, and process emotion. A parakeet that practices a new tune by day may rehearse it again in dreams at night. A young bird learning to fly may relive that rhythm in sleep, refining the pattern until it becomes instinct. There's something touching about the thought of it. These bright, busy little creatures, so full of noise and energy by day, falling into quieter worlds of memory by night. While we sleep under blankets, they rest beneath feathers, dreaming of skies that continue even in darkness. Sometimes, if you watch closely, you'll see one shift on its perch, fluff its wings, and make a faint sound, almost like laughter, almost like talking in sleep. They seem to drift between worlds with ease, carrying sunlight into their dreams and waking gently with the morning's warmth. In the wild, parakeets roost close together, their soft breathing synchronized. Perhaps their dreams overlap too, a shared rhythm of wind, flight, and belonging. Even in captivity, they often sleep side by side, comforted by proximity, their dreams unfolding in quiet parallel. It's easy to think of dreaming as only humans do, a product of our imagination. But nature whispers otherwise. Somewhere in the stillness of night, wings twitch softly, and tiny hearts move through invisible skies. The parakeet sleeps, but its spirit keeps flying, carried by memory, guided by light only it can see. High on a cliffside where the sea sighs endlessly below, a small, colorful bird lands on the wind. It waddles forward on orange feet, its beak bright as coral, and pauses before a patch of earth dotted with old grass. It hesitates, then disappears inside. After thousands of miles and months at sea, the puffin has come home. These birds spend most of their lives in the open ocean, far from land. They ride the waves through storms, dive deep for fish, and sleep floating on the surface of the water. For most of the year, they live with no landmarks, only horizon and sky. And yet, when spring returns, so do they, not just to the same island, but often to the exact burrow they left years before. A puffin's nesting burrow is its anchor in the world. Carved into grassy cliffs or rocky slopes, it's where they meet their mate, raise their chick, and shelter from the wind. When they return each year, they find that same small tunnel waiting, sometimes after journeys spanning thousands of miles. Scientists have tracked them across the North Atlantic, from Iceland to Norway, from Scotland to Greenland, and still they navigate back with uncanny precision. How they find their way remains a marvel. Part of it lies in their sense of Earth's magnetic field, a natural compass built into their bodies. Part may come from smell, sight, or even memory imprinted like a map inside their minds. Whatever the mechanism, it feels like something deeper, as though the sea itself whispers the way home. Puffins are faithful not just to their burrows, but to each other. Most pairs reunite each breeding season, greeting with soft clattering sounds, gentle beak taps that look almost like affection. They clean their old nest together, line it with feathers, and begin again. It's a quiet ritual of renewal, repeated year after year. Some puffins live over 30 years, returning to the same patch of cliff through countless migrations. Watching them is like watching time itself made visible, the steady pulse of nature's memory. While the ocean shifts and erodes the rock, while winds carve new patterns into the cliffs, these small birds return faithfully, unchanged in purpose. Their burrows become tiny symbols of persistence, home not as a structure, but as a promise kept. When the season ends, they fly away again, vanishing into gray horizons. For months they will see no land, only endless water and light. But somewhere deep in their minds, that cliff waits, the sound of waves below, the scent of grass above. And when the time comes, they will turn toward it again, following a path no map could ever show.
At the edge of a shallow lake, tinted rose by sunlight and algae, a flamingo stands perfectly still. Its long neck curls into a gentle curve. Its head rests upon its body, and one slender leg tucks quietly beneath its feathers. The bird does not sway. It seems sculpted from calm itself, motionless, poised, and impossibly balanced on a single limb. For years, people wondered why flamingos stand on one leg. The sight is so strange, so delicate, that it looks almost ceremonial, as if they're meditating together in silence. But behind that grace lies reason. When a flamingo folds one leg up close to its body, it conserves warmth. The shallow waters they live in can be cool, and with long, exposed legs, much of their body heat could escape through the skin. By tucking one leg away, they halve that loss, resting and warming themselves with quiet precision. Even more remarkable, they seem to hold this balance without effort. Researchers studying their posture found that when flamingos stand on one leg, their muscles actually relax. Their anatomy locks naturally into position, allowing them to stay upright without strain. It's easier for them to stand still on one leg than on two. Some can even sleep this way, heads tucked under wings, bodies serene, supported by perfect equilibrium. Watch a group of them, and you'll notice something hypnotic. Hundreds of pale pink bodies reflected in still water, each one poised like a mirror of calm. When they move, it's slow and synchronized. A leg unfolding, a wing stretching, a quiet ripple spreading outward. The scene feels less like a gathering of animals and more like a living meditation. In nature, balance is survival. Flamingos feed in shallow lagoons where they sift through mud and water for algae and shrimp. To live there, they must adapt to constant motion, fluctuating temperatures, and changing tides. Their one-legged rest isn't laziness, it's wisdom carved by evolution. They've learned that strength isn't always about movement. Sometimes it's about knowing when to be still. When the wind rises or rain begins to fall, they remain poised, eyes half closed, trusting their stability. It's as if the world could shift around them, and they would simply adjust, graceful and untroubled. There's a kind of peace in their patience, a reminder that calm is not the absence of motion, but the mastery of it. To stand on one leg, surrounded by noise and water and light, is to exist between movement and rest, fully present yet untouched by rush. And when dusk deepens across the lake, the flamingos remain there in their quiet poses, reflections merging with the fading sky, hundreds of soft silhouettes balanced on the edge of stillness. In the misty forests of New Zealand, where ferns spread wide like open hands and the air smells of damp earth, a small bird wanders through the night. It doesn't fly, it doesn't sing, and its feathers look more like soft fur than plumage. It moves gently, snuffling through leaves, pressing its long beak into the soil. At the very tip of that beak are two tiny openings, nostrils. The kiwi is smelling its way through the darkness. Most birds rely on sight to find their food. Their nostrils sit near the base of the beak, far from the ground, where air flows clean and open. But the kiwi is different, almost backwards in design. Its nostrils rest at the very end, allowing it to sniff the earth like a mammal. This is how it finds its hidden meals, worms, beetles, and roots that live below the surface. Each time it probes the soil, the kiwi breathes in faint scents that most creatures would never notice. The smell of damp wood, the trace of moving life beneath the dirt, it all guides the bird with quiet accuracy. It doesn't need to see, it simply listens and smells. In fact, its eyesight is poor. Its feathers muffle sound, and its feet tread softly, making it almost invisible in the undergrowth. To watch one is to see patience in motion. It pauses, head low, beak sweeping gently side to side. Then it plunges its beak into the ground, twists slightly, and pulls back a wriggling prize. The motion is slow, deliberate, a rhythm of trust between bird and earth. The kiwi's sense of smell is so advanced that it can locate buried insects several centimeters below the soil. And along with smell, it uses touch. Tiny sensory pits at the beak's tip detect vibrations in the ground. It's as if it can feel the world breathing beneath its feet. This peculiar bird is also a symbol of devotion. It mates for life, sharing burrows with its partner year after year, taking turns guarding their eggs, some of the largest, proportionally, of any bird on earth. They live quietly, unseen, yet perfectly suited to their world. In the hush of the forest, a kiwi's movements are almost soundless. A faint rustle, a sniff, the soft pull of earth. It's easy to imagine the forest itself listening back, aware of its smallest guardian.
There's a quiet wisdom in its design, in the way its body, so unlike any other bird's, fits perfectly into its place. Where others soar, it stays grounded. Where others see, it smells. And somehow, that difference is not limitation, but harmony, proof that nature makes room for every way of being.
Far from any shore, where the horizon swallows the sky and the waves stretch endlessly in every direction, a seabird drifts on the wind. No rivers, no rain, no freshwater streams, only the vast saltwater world below. And yet it drinks. For this bird, the sea itself is enough. Gulls, albatrosses, and petrels are among the few creatures that can drink seawater safely. While most animals would quickly dehydrate from its salt, these birds carry within them a quiet miracle. Small glands tucked just above their eyes that filter and remove salt from their blood. Nature gave them their own internal desalination system. Each time a bird sips from the ocean, the water enters its body just as it would ours, loaded with salt too concentrated for ordinary kidneys to handle. But within moments, those salt glands begin their work. They pull sodium and chloride ions from the bloodstream, concentrate them, and push them out through tiny ducts near the nostrils. The bird's head glistens with fine droplets, and if you look closely, you might see small beads of brine forming and falling, like tears that sparkle in sunlight. They are, quite literally, crying salt. This ability allows seabirds to spend nearly their entire lives over open water, never forced to return to land just to drink. An albatross can soar for weeks across oceans. A gull can rest on rolling waves for days, all sustained by the very sea that surrounds them. It's a system of perfect independence, freedom written into physiology. The balance is astonishing. Too much salt would poison, too little water would weaken, but the glands maintain harmony, drop by drop. It's the kind of quiet perfection evolution builds slowly, with patience and necessity as its tools. Sometimes sailors in the past would mistake those salt droplets for signs of exhaustion or sorrow, not realizing they were signs of life. Proof that the bird had mastered what humans could not. They were survivors, carrying a secret of endurance in plain sight. There's a strange peace in imagining that, a living creature sustained entirely by the ocean, shaped by wind and salt, knowing no boundary between thirst and fulfillment. As if they've learned to make peace with what surrounds them, to drink from challenge and turn it into life. At dusk, when the light softens across the waves, these birds rest on gentle swells, the air cool and salt-heavy. A drop slides from the curve of a beak, glinting briefly before disappearing back into the sea. The water that once threatened to overwhelm them has become part of them, a quiet exchange between endurance and belonging. In the soft light of early morning, a blackbird perches on the corner of a rooftop, chest lifted, eyes half closed, singing into the pale sky. The melody is clear but not hurried, a pattern of whistles, pauses, and trills that sound both confident and gentle, as if the air itself has become an instrument. This is a voice that marks time more faithfully than any clock. For the blackbird, each season brings a new song. In spring, their music is bright and bold. The days grow longer, the air smells of rain and blossoms, and the blackbird's voice fills the world with renewal.
Each phrase is a declaration of territory, of presence, of readiness. It sings to say, I am here, and this is mine. Its notes stretch wide and high, weaving through the spaces between trees, echoing off windows, greeting dawn with pure momentum. But as the months pass and summer softens, the songs begin to slow. The rhythm changes, not weaker, just gentler. By autumn, the blackbird's tone deepens into something quieter, more introspective. Its music no longer claims, it remembers. The same notes that once sounded like celebration now feel like reflection, echoes of sunlight fading from long days. Scientists say this shift is tied to hormone changes as breeding season ends, but to the human ear it feels like emotion, a musical sigh between chapters of the year. The blackbird doesn't stop singing, even in cooler months. It hums from hedges, low branches, or lonely fences, letting its soft golden voice ripple through the early dusk. Each phrase seems to linger a little longer in the air, like breath in cold light. It's still the same bird, but the song has changed, as all living things do with time. Those who listen closely can tell the season by sound alone. The bright confidence of spring, the calm patience of summer, the wistful quiet of autumn, all carried within a single throat. What's astonishing is that these changes aren't random. Each variation reflects purpose, energy when the world is waking up, restfulness when it prepares to sleep. To humans, the blackbird's music has always felt personal. It reminds us of mornings that begin softly, of evenings that fade gently into thought. Its song belongs to both presence and memory. It doesn't chase attention. It simply sings because that's what the season asks for. And when the last leaves fall, the blackbird remains, silent for a time, waiting for spring again. Then, one cold morning, a single note rises from the hedgerow, familiar yet new. The year has turned, and the voice of the blackbird begins once more.
In the hush of early morning, before the city stirs and the air still carries the scent of dew, a sound begins, bright, tumbling, unstoppable. From a hedge no bigger than a child's height, a wren sings. Its body weighs less than a handful of coins, yet its voice fills the space like an orchestra. It spills out hundreds of notes in just a few seconds, a wild, joyful torrent of sound that seems impossible to come from such a tiny throat. The wren's song is one of the most intricate in the bird world. Measured on a scale of speed and complexity, it surpasses most symphonies. Each burst lasts only a few seconds, yet within it are layers of rhythm, pitch, and phrasing that would take human musicians hours to notate. Every note is placed with intention. No repetition, no hesitation, just pure, effortless precision. The secret lies in the syrinx, the bird's voice box. While humans have one vocal cord, birds have two, and wrens use both at once. This allows them to produce overlapping sounds, harmonies, and rapid shifts that flow like water. What we hear as a single melody is actually two streams weaving together, rising and falling in perfect coordination. It's music written by instinct but performed like mastery. Scientists studying the wren's song have found patterns that rival human music in complexity. Changes in tempo, recurring motifs,
even phrases that sound like responses to earlier calls. It's as if the bird is holding a conversation with itself in pure sound. And it sings not quietly, but with surprising power. Per ounce of body weight, the wren song is among the loudest in nature. Tiny lungs, enormous spirit. But beyond biology, there's something emotional in its music. The wren sings to declare territory, to attract a mate, to remind the world it is alive. Yet none of that diminishes the sheer beauty of the result. It doesn't know that its song inspires poets, musicians, and wanderers who stop just to listen. It sings because it must, because life inside it wants to spill outward. In folklore, the wren has often been called the king of birds, not for size or strength, but for its voice. A reminder that greatness doesn't roar. Sometimes it simply sings from the hedges when no one's looking. When the song ends, silence rushes in behind it. Not emptiness, but a kind of awe. The world feels suddenly larger, brighter, more alive. And somewhere in that small patch of green, the wren flutters its wings, satisfied. Its work is done, the morning is awake, and the smallest of creatures has just composed another masterpiece that will never be written down, but always remembered. The air is full of sound, a blizzard of calls, trills, and echoes bouncing off the ice. Thousands of penguins stand shoulder to shoulder, their black and white bodies merging into a restless sea of motion. To human ears, it's chaos, a chorus so overwhelming it feels impossible to separate one voice from another. And yet, in that frozen crowd, two birds are calling for each other, and they will find each other. Penguins live some of the noisiest lives in nature. In breeding colonies that can stretch for miles, tens of thousands gather to nest, protect their young, and share warmth. When adults leave to hunt at sea, they can be gone for days, sometimes weeks. When they return, every inch of ice looks the same, every bird nearly identical, but the reunion always happens. The secret is sound. Each penguin has a unique call, as distinct as a human voice or fingerprint. It's built from a personal rhythm and tone that no other bird can copy perfectly. When they call out, their mate listens, filtering through layers of overlapping noise, recognizing the familiar pattern hidden inside. It's not volume that makes the difference, but memory, deep, specific, unwavering. Scientists have recorded these calls and played them back within colonies. The results are astonishing. A penguin will respond instantly to the voice of its mate or chick, even when surrounded by hundreds of others calling at once. But when the sound of a stranger's call is played, it remains still, indifferent. To them, recognition isn't a matter of guessing, it's certainty, carried in vibration and tone. In some species, this recognition begins almost at birth. A chick only days old learns the rhythm of its parents' calls and answers back with its own tiny voice. When the adults return from the ocean, they call across the crowd until those familiar sounds align, a duet of reunion. The chick stumbles forward, the parent lowers its head, and for a brief, perfect moment, the two are together again in the noise. There's something deeply moving in that. The world around them may roar with wind and voices, but one sound, one song cuts through it all. Love, in its purest form, is often not sight or touch, but recognition. I know you by your voice, and I will always find you in the crowd. When evening falls and the wind grows softer, the colony hums like an orchestra settling after a long performance. Pairs huddle close, heads resting together, the day's noise fading to a quiet rhythm of breath. Somewhere in that vastness, one voice has found its echo, and that's all that matters.
When the ice thaws and the first light of spring spreads across still water, two white shapes appear on the horizon. They move separately at first, one from the north, one from the south, but their paths draw slowly together, as if pulled by memory. When they meet, the lake seems to hold its breath. The swans have come home to each other. Swans are among the few birds that mate for life. Once a bond is formed, it endures through years, migrations, and seasons. Even when distance separates them, their connection remains, a quiet loyalty that returns with the turning of the earth. And every spring they find one another again, repeating a ritual as soft and graceful as a whisper. Their reunion begins with movement, not sound. Two long necks curve toward each other, tracing slow arcs across the water. They mirror one another perfectly. Every dip, every turn, every ripple answered in time. Then comes the quiet calling, deep and muted, a duet carried low across the surface. It's a greeting older than memory, a pattern engraved in instinct and affection. As they circled together, their necks formed the shape of a heart, a gesture nature created without needing intention. Scientists studying swan pairs have found that these reunions serve both emotion and function. After months apart, the dance helps them reaffirm their partnership and reestablish coordination for nesting and raising young. It's communication made visible, an elegant language of trust and recognition. Each step, each mirrored glide says, "I remember you. We are still the same." Swans are devoted parents, working together to build floating nests from reeds and grass. They guard their eggs side by side, taking turns resting and watching. Even in silence, their connection shows, one sleeping, the other keeping watch, always aware of the other's presence. They don't need constant contact. Their bond is steady, understood. In folklore, swans have long symbolized eternal love, not because they are dramatic, but because they are consistent. Their beauty lies not in passion that burns quickly, but in loyalty that endures quietly through time. They teach that affection doesn't always need novelty or noise. Sometimes it lives in returning, again and again, to the same place, the same face, the same song. When evening settles and the light fades from the lake, the swans drift close, their feathers glowing faintly in the dusk. The air is calm, the water still, their movements perfectly synchronized, two souls who have traveled far only to find peace in what is familiar. The next day they will begin nesting again, side by side, as they have every spring. Love for them is not a moment, it is a migration with no end. When a peacock spreads its tail beneath the sun, the world seems to pause. A fan of shimmering eyes opens slowly, each feather alive with blues, greens, and golds that shift as the light moves. It looks like pure color, deep, rich, impossible. But the truth is stranger and even more beautiful. Those hues don't exist in the feathers at all. They are made of light. A peacock's feathers are brown if crushed or ground down. There are no blue or green pigments hiding within them. Instead, the colors we see are born from microscopic structures arranged like tiny prisms along each feather's surface. When sunlight hits them, those structures bend and scatter the light, splitting it into different wavelengths. Our eyes see that scattering as a shimmering color. Change the angle, and the pattern changes too. That's why a peacock never looks the same from one step to the next. It's a living kaleidoscope. This phenomenon is called structural coloration, and it appears throughout nature in butterfly wings, hummingbird throats, and the shells of beetles. But in peacocks, it reaches perfection. A careful layering of microscopic ridges and air pockets that reflect light with extraordinary precision. Each feather holds hundreds of these nanostructures designed to interfere with light waves, amplifying certain colors while canceling others. What remains is brilliance. To the peacock, that brilliance isn't vanity, it's communication. When a male fans his tail before a female, he's not just showing beauty, he's signaling vitality and health. A perfect feather structure reflects light evenly, producing the most intense color. To a peahen's eyes, sensitive to ultraviolet light that humans can't see, the display glows even more vividly, an iridescent language of attraction. Scientists studying these feathers under microscopes often describe them in artistic terms: architecture, design, harmony. They are nature's engineers, shaping light with geometry so fine that it outshines any pigment on earth. No dye, no paint, no jewel truly compares, because this beauty isn't on the surface, it is the surface. And yet, the peacock itself seems unaware of its grandeur. It moves slowly through the shade, colors muted until sunlight catches again, transforming it into brilliance once more. Every flash, every shimmer is the meeting of physics and sunlight, light dancing across matter, turning structure into spectacle. There's something humbling about that what dazzles the eye isn't what's within, but what interacts, a dialogue between light and form, existence and perception. The feather holds no color, and yet it creates infinite shades simply by being shaped a certain way. When night falls and the display closes, all that brilliance folds quietly into brown. But the secret remains, waiting for morning. Proof that even darkness can hold the potential for light, if only the sun will shine again. When released into the open sky, a pigeon does not wander. It circles once, twice, and then turns, as if listening to something silent, before flying straight toward home. No map, no signpost, no familiar skyline, yet it knows exactly where to go. For centuries, humans have watched in awe, wondering how such a small bird could find its way across mountains, fields, and oceans. The secret lies not in its eyes, but deep within its body, a sense for Earth's magnetic field, an invisible compass that never fails.
Homing pigeons have been used for thousands of years to carry messages across impossible distances. They were trusted in wars, in deserts, in storms. Even when taken hundreds of kilometers away, they would find their way back to the same rooftop, the same nest. To us, it feels like magic. To them, it's simply navigation, written into their bones. Scientists believe pigeons carry special magnetoreceptors, either within their beaks or brains, that can detect the faint magnetic lines surrounding our planet. This field, the same one that moves compasses, becomes a silent map they can sense without seeing. It tells them where north lies, how far they've turned, and how to adjust their path as they move. Combined with their sharp vision and sense of smell, it creates an internal navigational system so precise that even modern instruments struggle to match it. In one study, pigeons were released from unfamiliar locations hundreds of kilometers away. Despite never having traveled those routes, most returned home within hours or days, tracing invisible lines across the air as if guided by memory. Even blindfolded, some managed to orient themselves correctly before taking flight, proof that their guidance was not of sight, but of the earth itself. The mystery deepens with every discovery. Some researchers found magnetic particles, tiny crystals of magnetite inside pigeon tissues. Others discovered specialized neurons that react when the bird's head shifts direction in relation to the planet's field. It's as though the Earth whispers its position directly to them, and they simply listen. There's poetry in that connection, a bond between sky and stone, creature and planet. While we use instruments to navigate, the pigeon carries its compass within, reading the quiet language of magnetism that we can't even feel. It reminds us that guidance doesn't always require sight. Sometimes it's trust, rhythm, and an ancient sense that the world itself can lead you home. At sunset, when the horizon glows gold and violet, pigeons turn toward familiar rooftops once more. They follow no roads, yet their path is true. Perhaps that's the beauty of it, not knowing how they know, only that they always find their way. Like travelers guided by something unseen, they return, again and again, to where their hearts belong. Over the burning sands of the Sahara, the heat shimmers like a mirage, rising from the dunes into pale blue sky. There are no trees, no lakes, no shelter, just wind and distance. And somewhere high above it all, a common swift glides effortlessly, wings stretched wide, eyes half closed. It has flown for days, perhaps weeks, and now, without ever landing, it will sleep. The common swift is one of nature's quiet miracles, a bird built almost entirely for flight. It eats, drinks, and even mates in the air. Scientists tracking them have discovered that some can stay aloft for nearly 10 months, their wings slicing endlessly through sky. They travel across continents, through storms and stillness, always moving, always between places. But the Sahara is their great test, an expanse so vast and lifeless that no safe perch waits below. To cross it, the swift must rest without stopping. And so it does something almost unbelievable. It sleeps while flying. Its secret lies in the brain. The swift, like a few other aerial creatures, can enter a state called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, a soft half-slumber where one side of the brain rests while the other stays awake. One eye closes, one remains open. Wings continue to move, balance is kept, and the bird drifts in slow, circling glides across the warm air currents. It's a dream carried on the wind. During this time, the bird's body remains steady, heart and wings working in gentle rhythm, while consciousness fades in and out like waves on water. It doesn't fall, it simply floats, halfway between waking and sleeping, alive and dreaming. No other creature on Earth embodies rest in motion so completely. Scientists studying swifts over Africa have found that even during these airborne nights, they navigate with precision, riding thermal winds that rise from the desert, conserving energy as they drift half-aware. It's not chaos, it's choreography. Each feather, each heartbeat moves in harmony with the air around it. To imagine such a life is to glimpse a different kind of peace. We think of rest as stillness, yet the swift finds rest in motion. It trusts the air to hold it, the wind to cradle it gently while its mind sleeps. It never crashes, never drifts astray, just flows, perfectly in balance with the sky. When dawn breaks over the dunes, the swifts are still there, high above the golden light, awake again, refreshed by flight. They will continue on toward the green lands beyond the desert, where rivers wait and insects rise like dust. Perhaps that's the quiet wisdom they carry, that peace isn't always where you stop, but where you surrender, even in motion, even in wind, even between waking and dream. In the canopy of a rainforest, light filters down in slow green waves, and a voice echoes through the trees, clear, rhythmic, almost human. It's a sound that once belonged to another bird, another place, perhaps even another time. The speaker is a parrot, and within its voice lives the past. Parrots are among the longest-lived birds on Earth. Macaws, cockatoos, and African greys often live for 60 to 80 years, some even longer when cared for. A parrot born today could outlive its keeper, its flockmates, and even the forest around it, yet still carry the same calls, the same songs, the same learned phrases it heard in youth. It is not just living time, it's remembering it. In the wild, parrots don't just mimic sound for fun. Their voices are the threads that tie generations together. Young parrots learn the calls of their group from elders, repeating them until the rhythm becomes second nature. Each flock develops its own distinct dialect, a shared language that marks identity and belonging. When older parrots pass away, their voices live on through the young. In this way, a single note or pattern can travel across decades, carried from one life to another like a story whispered through time. In captivity, their memory can be even more astonishing. Some parrots remember songs, names, and words taught to them 50 years earlier. They recall faces long gone, mimicking laughter or greetings from people they once knew. A gray parrot named Alex studied for decades, not only spoke words but understood them, counting, identifying colors, even answering questions. When he died, scientists mourned not just a bird, but a mind that had met humanity halfway. It's easy to think of mimicry as imitation, but for parrots, it's memory. Their voices are living archives, proof that life, when long enough, becomes a vessel for history. Some wild flocks in South America still echo the calls of ancestors captured centuries ago, their dialects shaped by contact with humans, then passed down ever since. They are speaking about the past without even knowing it. There's a soft melancholy in that, but also beauty. To live 80 years is to see forests change color, skies shift, and storms return. To hear your own voice answered by younger ones repeating the same tones is to witness the cycle of time and belonging. At dusk, as the forest settles, a parrot calls from high above, its voice carrying through the humid air. Another answer, and another, each sound slightly different, yet woven from the same melody. It's more than communication. It's an inheritance, the language of light, air, and memory. Still flying, still alive. On the wide, white tundra, where the wind sighs like distant breath, and snow glitters beneath the low sun, a shadow glides silently over the ice. It lands, soft as a whisper, leaving almost no mark. The bird stands perfectly still, white against white, watching, listening. It is a snowy owl, and on its feet are what look like tiny boots made of down. In this frozen world, warmth is everything. Where other creatures burrow or flee the winter, the snowy owl endures it, perfectly adapted to the coldest air on earth. Its feathers are its armor, not just over its body, but over every inch of skin, even its toes. Each foot is wrapped in thick, soft plumage, so dense it feels like fur. When it stands on ice, those feathers insulate against the freezing ground, keeping heat from escaping. They are, quite literally, the owl's built-in snow boots. Most birds have bare legs and toes, but the snowy owls are completely hidden. The feathers there are among the thickest of any bird, layers of warmth wrapped around tendons and bone. When scientists measured their insulation, they found it rivals that of Arctic foxes and hares. The owl can perch for hours on frost-covered rocks or frozen carcasses without harm. Even its wings and body carry this same luxury. Each feather is broad and soft-edged, trapping air to hold in heat and muffle sound. That's why snowy owls can fly through snowstorms in perfect silence, warmth and stealth combined in one breathtaking design. But warmth isn't just comfort, it's survival. The snowy owl spends much of its life in near constant daylight during Arctic summer, then in endless twilight through winter. When lemmings and other prey move beneath the snow, the owl must wait motionless for hours, trusting its feathers to shield it from wind and cold. Its patience would be impossible without that protection. There's something quietly poetic about it, a creature shaped not by escape from harshness, but by acceptance of it. It doesn't fight the snow, it wears it. Its camouflage, its comfort, its silence, all born from the same frozen landscape. From a distance, a snowy owl almost seems like a ghost of the tundra, eyes golden against the pale world, breath invisible in the cold air. But up close, you can see the softness of those feathered feet, the delicate detail of warmth written into every contour. It's a reminder that nature's fiercest survivors are often its gentlest. Strength in the Arctic isn't loud or aggressive. It's quiet, still, and warmly dressed. When night falls and the temperature drops to unbearable cold, the snowy owl remains, resting calmly on the snow itself. No shiver, no fear, just soft white feathers pressed against white earth, both perfectly at home in their silence. Across the dry heart of the desert, where wind moves like breath over endless sand, a single bird flies low to the ground. Its wings beat steady, unhurried, carrying not food or nesting twigs, but water. This is the male sand grouse, the desert's quiet courier, and he carries life in his feathers. The sand grouse lives where water is a rarity, where days are blistering, nights are cold, and survival is a matter of patience and distance. Its chicks hatch far from any pond or spring, soft and thirsty beneath the desert sun. To keep them alive, their father must bring them what they cannot reach. At dawn, he leaves the nest and flies for miles, guided by memory and instinct to a distant water source. When he arrives, he wades into the pool, not to drink, but to soak. He presses his chest and belly feathers beneath the surface, fluttering gently until they are saturated. The water clings to him, not dripping away, but absorbed into special feather structures designed for this single sacred purpose. Each feather acts like a sponge, holding tiny droplets between fine, interlocking barbs. Incredibly, he can carry nearly a tenth of his body weight in water this way, enough to sustain his chicks for the day. Then, with a final shake, he lifts from the pool and turns back toward the horizon, heavy with life. The journey home is long, often under rising heat, but he does not rest. He lands at the nest, calls softly, and lowers himself so the chicks can rush forward. They press their small beaks into his damp feathers and drink, drop by drop, carefully, gratefully. It is a scene both tender and astonishing. A father made into a living well, his body transformed into the bridge between dryness and survival. When the chicks have finished, he preens briefly, then settles nearby to guard them. Tomorrow he will fly again, another long journey through dust and sun. He will do this every day until the chicks are grown enough to find water themselves. In a landscape that offers almost nothing freely, he gives everything he can. Scientists studying sand grouse have called this adaptation one of nature's quiet masterpieces, a perfect blend of biology and devotion. It's not strength that defines it, but care. Even in the harshest places, life finds ways to be gentle. At dusk, as the desert cools and the wind softens, the sand grouse stands by his family, chest feathers still faintly damp, eyes half closed. Around him, the sand glows gold in the fading light. He has done what few creatures can, carried water across a desert, not for himself, but for those too small to fly. High above a meadow, swallows sweep and curve through the air, fast, graceful, effortless.
Their flight is the poetry of motion. But when they perch on wires at dusk, another kind of poetry begins. They sing, soft, rippling, alive with rhythm. And if you listen closely, you might hear something unexpected, the faint echo of another bird's tune woven inside their own. It seems even the sky's singers take inspiration. Swallows are not known for mimicry like parrots or mockingbirds, yet they are careful listeners. When they share habitats with starlings, bold, noisy birds with complex songs, they sometimes borrow bits of those melodies and reshape them into their own. It isn't mindless imitation, it's refinement. They study the music around them and adjust their own, adding new patterns, new flourishes, new light. To scientists, this behavior shows remarkable adaptability. A swallow's song is partly instinctive, but it also grows through experience. Young males listen to others, both swallows and neighbors of different species, and practice endlessly, blending what they hear into something personal. Those who sing more richly often attract more mates, their voices proof of intelligence and vitality. So, a phrase borrowed from a starling isn't theft, it's evolution through art. Each morning, the air over the fields becomes a shared language. The songs overlap. Starling chatter, swallow trills, sparrow chirps. Yet within the harmony, each voice remains distinct. It's as if the birds understand that beauty expands when it listens. They aren't competing for sound, but building a greater chorus together. One researcher described it as ecological jazz, improvisation shaped by what's near. A swallow might start with its own melody, then insert a note sequence heard earlier that morning, refining it over time until it becomes something entirely new. These variations spread through the flock, small changes that ripple outward like creativity in flight. It's humbling to realize that even birds, creatures we often imagine driven only by instinct, are also students of sound. They learn, adapt, and express individuality through their voices. Their songs are not static, but living, changing with each season, each neighbor, each moment of listening. In that way, the swallow's music isn't just its own. It's a collection of borrowed wisdom, shaped by wind and company. A reminder that even in nature, growth begins by paying attention. At sunset, as they rest on the lines between earth and sky, the swallow's voices melt into the twilight. Tiny notes carrying hints of others, yet arranged with perfect grace. It's the sound of listening turned into art, a gentle truth that echoes beyond feathers, that we all learn by hearing what the world sings before us. At twilight, when the lake turns to glass and the air holds its breath, a single note rises from the mist, long, trembling, and low. It glides across the water like a voice calling through a dream. This is the loon, a bird whose song is not merely heard, but felt. It is the sound of solitude itself. The loon lives on northern lakes where silence is almost sacred. Its feathers gleam black and white like ripples of moonlight, and its eyes glow red in the dim. When it calls, the world seems to expand, every echo traveling across the still surface, mirrored perfectly by the water. The lake doesn't swallow the sound. It carries it, amplifies it, gives it back.
That's why a loon's cry feels so vast. It's the sound of both voice and reflection blending into one. Scientists studying its call describe 4 distinct types: a haunting wail used to locate a mate or chick, a tremulous laugh signaling social contact, a short hoot shared between family members, and a sharp yodel, the territorial song of males. Each one carries meaning, and each is shaped by the water itself. Sound travels farther over smooth surfaces, and the loon's home is nature's perfect amplifier. In a calm night, its voice can echo for kilometers, circling the shoreline like a ghost. The loon's anatomy is built for both voice and silence. Its lungs are powerful, allowing long, resonant notes that vibrate across distance. Its bones are heavier than most birds, helping it dive deep and giving its calls a grounded, almost human tone, rich, deep, slightly mournful. The water and air together become part of the song, making each cry feel like it's coming from everywhere at once. To those who live near northern lakes, the sound of a loon has become more than a call. It's a presence. Campers pause, paddlers rest their oars, and the whole world seems to listen. It's been called lonely, eerie, even melancholy, but perhaps that's because it speaks the language of stillness, a voice that belongs to the quiet spaces most of us have forgotten how to hear. Indigenous stories often describe the loon as a messenger between worlds, the one who calls across boundaries, from water to sky, from life to spirit. Its song is said to bring calm, to remind listeners of balance and belonging. When night deepens and stars begin to gather above the tree line, the loon calls again, softer now, as if speaking only to the moon. The echo returns once more, slower this time, fading into distance until only silence remains. But the feeling lingers, a sound shaped by solitude, carried by still water, reminding the world that even loneliness, when given voice, can become something beautiful. When dawn breaks and sunlight spills over the fields, the world looks soft and familiar to us, green, gold, blue, and warm. But to the birds already awake and singing, that same world glows in colors we can't even imagine. To them, every petal, every feather, every ripple of air holds shades that lie beyond our sight. Where we see beauty, they see brilliance. Birds live in a richer spectrum of light. Human eyes have 3 kinds of color receptors: red, green, and blue. Birds have 4, the 4th tuned to ultraviolet. This single difference opens an entirely new dimension of color. What looks to us like a plain white flower may blaze with ultraviolet patterns, invisible markings that guide them straight to nectar. Where we see a soft yellow petal, they see paths, arrows, and glowing edges painted in light beyond our reach. Feathers, too, tell secrets we can't see. To human eyes, the plumage of many birds seems simple: brown, gray, or muted blue. But under ultraviolet light, those same feathers shimmer with hidden signals. Male and female birds that appear identical to us often glow differently to each other. A peacock's tail, already magnificent, becomes something almost divine in their spectrum, flashes of light layered upon color, shifting with every angle of the sun. Scientists have studied this hidden world with special cameras that capture ultraviolet reflection, revealing a landscape of unseen radiance. Many species use it as language, silent messages written in light. Some birds mark territory, others attract mates, and some even distinguish close relatives through patterns we will never see. A simple blackbird under morning sun may carry a subtle sheen of violet, unseen by our eyes, yet vivid to another bird nearby. Even the sky looks different to them. While we see a smooth gradient from blue to white, they see swirling ultraviolet textures, invisible constellations of brightness that help them navigate. They use these patterns to orient themselves, reading sunlight as if it were a map. It's humbling to realize how small our vision truly is. The world we know, the one we call colorful, is only a fraction of what exists. Beyond our eyes lies another layer of beauty, constant and silent, waiting to be seen by other lives. When you watch a bird dark between flowers, pausing for a heartbeat on a branch, remember it's moving through a world more luminous than ours, where every leaf hums with hidden color and every breeze carries light we cannot follow. Perhaps that's what makes their song so bright, music shaped by a world we can only dream of, painted in colors made for wings, not words.
On the surface of a quiet lake, the moon drifts in silver ripples, and a circle of ducks floats in silence. They rest close together, feathers puffed, heads tucked beneath wings. The water glows faintly around them, the night still except for the soft sound of breathing and the faint, rhythmic dip of the current. It looks like complete peace. But not every duck is fully asleep. Along the edges of the group, a few keep one eye open, literally. Ducks have a remarkable ability that allows them to rest and remain alert at the same time. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, a pattern where one half of the brain sleeps while the other stays awake. The open eye connects to the alert half, watching the world. The closed eye connects to the dreaming one, resting in safety. The result is perfect balance, half awareness, half surrender. In the center of the group, the inner ducks close both eyes. They sleep deeply, trusting their companions at the perimeter to keep watch. Those at the edges take the lighter rest, one hemisphere awake, scanning for danger from air or shore. If a threat appears, even a faint ripple or shadow, the watchers react first, calling out or stirring the others. Within seconds, the entire group wakes, wings ready. This pattern shifts through the night. When dawn nears, the ducks change position. Those who kept watch move inward to sleep fully, and others drift to the outside to take their turn. No leader commands this. It happens naturally, rhythmically, a silent choreography shaped by centuries of survival. Scientists observing this behavior found that edge ducks open their outer eyes more often, while inner ducks keep theirs closed almost entirely. It's a shared system of rest and vigilance, a living circle of trust. Each bird sleeps knowing that while it dreams, another keeps the world safe. There's something profoundly peaceful in that image, a community floating in moonlight, asleep but aware, each taking turns between rest and responsibility. It's nature's lesson in harmony, that safety is not isolation, but connection.
We often imagine sleep as solitude, but for these birds it's shared. Their rest depends on others, their dreams guarded by friends who drift beside them. And in the gentle rocking of the water, peace becomes something collective, a balance between calm and care. When morning comes, light spills over the reeds, and the ducks stretch their wings. The watchers close both eyes for a brief moment, finally still, while others take up the task of looking outward. The lake reflects the sky, the circle widens, and the rhythm continues. Even in the quietest corners of nature, there's always someone awake, watching over the dreamers.
On the endless white plain of Antarctica, the wind moves like a living thing, low, constant, unbroken. The horizon shimmers in the cold, and scattered across the ice are small, dark shapes gathered in clusters. They tremble, huddle, shift. These are penguin chicks, standing together while their parents are far away, fishing in the frozen sea. Their circle is called a creche, nature's nursery of warmth and patience. When penguin chicks hatch, they are covered not in sleek, waterproof feathers, but in soft gray down that offers little protection from the cold. While their parents take turns feeding them, there comes a time when both must leave to find food. The chicks, too young to follow and too fragile to stand alone, must depend on one another. So they gather, dozens, sometimes hundreds, pressing close until the air between them turns warm. Inside the creche, each chick becomes part of something larger. They share body heat, leaning into one another, taking turns at the outer edge where the wind bites hardest. Those in the middle stay sheltered, then rotate outward so that all survive the long, bitter hours. It's a quiet rhythm, a small choreography of survival, the wisdom of togetherness written into instinct. While they wait, the adults are miles away at sea, diving deep for fish and krill. The journey can take days, and the chicks endure through storms and frost, protected not by walls or nests, but by each other. No single bird could withstand that cold, yet 100, breathing and standing side by side, create enough warmth to endure. When the parents finally return, they walk through the crowded rookery, calling out across the noise. To us it sounds like chaos, thousands of voices overlapping in the wind. But each chick knows the precise tone and rhythm of its own parents' call. They lift their heads, respond with a tiny cry, and within moments families reunite in the vast white expanse. The returning parent feeds the chick with the food carried inside its throat, a small miracle of timing and recognition in a landscape where all else looks the same. Scientists studying these gatherings often describe them as living blankets, shifting and breathing together. It's one of nature's most touching forms of cooperation, survival through shared warmth, safety through community. There's quiet poetry in that. In a place where life should not exist, comfort is not found alone. The cold that could kill becomes bearable only through closeness. When the storm passes, the chicks stir again, the circle loosening under a weak sun. Their parents will leave once more, and they will wait again, side by side, tiny hearts beating in rhythm with the frozen world.
Even here, at the edge of life, warmth still exists, not from fire, but from each other.
When night settles over the open fields and the air turns still, a voice rises from the fence post, a cascade of notes, familiar yet unplaceable. A whistle here, a trill there, a melody from somewhere else entirely. It sounds like the memory of many mornings stitched into one. The singer is a mockingbird, and its song is made of everything it has ever heard. Mockingbirds are among the most gifted vocal mimics in the animal world. Over their lifetimes, they can learn and remember hundreds of distinct sounds. The songs of other birds, the creak of gates, the ring of phones, even the call of frogs or the whistle of wind through wire. Each sound is stored in memory, waiting to be used. When the bird sings, it doesn't simply repeat, it composes. Each tune is a patchwork of borrowed echoes, a personal symphony of remembered voices. Scientists studying their songs have discovered that a single male mockingbird may have a repertoire of more than 200 melodies, each one precise enough to fool the species it mimics. He arranges them in phrases, cycling through them at dawn and dusk, altering pitch and rhythm as he goes. It's performance and memory intertwined, a living archive of sound. To the mockingbird, this isn't mimicry for amusement. It's communication, courtship, and territory. By mastering the songs of others, the male shows his intelligence and stamina, proof of a mind sharp enough to remember, quick enough to create. The more varied his song, the more impressive he appears to potential mates. Each tune is both a love song and a declaration. I have lived. I have listened. I remember everything. But there's something poetic beyond the science, something almost human in the way this bird turns memory into music. Where other creatures carry scent or scars as reminders of experience, the mockingbird carries sound. Each note is a fragment of life stored in feathers and breath. He doesn't simply survive his surroundings. He records them, transforms them, gives them back to the air as something beautiful. When night deepens and other birds fall silent, the mockingbird continues. Sometimes he perches under moonlight, repeating a fragment of a tune heard days or years ago. It's as if he can't help but relive it, shaping memory into rhythm, keeping the world alive through sound. And perhaps that's his quiet gift, to remind us that what we hear, what we remember, becomes part of who we are. The mockingbird doesn't forget. He gathers, he builds, he sings the story of everything that ever passed through his ears. And as his song fades into the warm night air, it feels less like noise and more like remembrance, one small life holding the echoes of many. Every autumn, when the air cools and the days grow shorter, the skies begin to move. Flocks rise like drifting constellations, cranes, swallows, warblers, geese, all tracing invisible routes across the world. It's easy to believe they're fleeing the cold, but that isn't the full story. What they're really chasing is light. Bird migration is one of the most astonishing rhythms in nature. Not a random escape from winter, but a precise pursuit of daylight and food. For many species, warmth alone isn't enough. They need hours of sun to see, to hunt, to feed their young. When light fades and insects vanish, seeds harden and rivers freeze, they follow the brightness elsewhere,
a journey not away from cold, but toward life. Deep within a bird's body, the length of daylight acts like a clock. As days shorten or lengthen, it triggers changes in hormones that whisper, "It's time to go." Muscles strengthen, fat stores build, feathers molt into sleeker shapes for flight. Then, one morning, without needing a signal from sky or sound, the flock simply lifts, guided by the subtle mathematics of light and season. Their destinations are not chosen by chance. The Arctic tern, for example, follows daylight so precisely that it experiences more sun than any other creature on Earth, migrating from one pole to the other each year. Others, like swallows or sandpipers, time their flight to match insect blooms and tidal cycles, arriving exactly when food is most abundant. They travel not blindly, but in step with the planet's pulse. Even young birds born that same year somehow know when to go, their bodies tuned to an ancient calendar written in sunlight. It's instinct, yes, but also memory, passed down through generations of wings, tracing the same invisible highways through air and time. Some routes are so precise that flocks return to the same field, the same reed bed, the same tree branch every year, guided by a pattern of light that never lies. For scientists, it's a marvel of synchronization, biology and astronomy working together. For poets, it's a metaphor for belonging, that even when we move, we are never lost if we follow what truly sustains us. When the sun rises late and the frost spreads silver across the fields, the last birds take flight, following the sun's arc toward brighter horizons. And when spring returns, they will follow it back again, carried not just by instinct, but by the rhythm of light itself, the steady heartbeat of the world. They are not escaping darkness. They are pursuing life, balance, and time, the endless chase of daylight across an ever-turning earth.
When the garden sleeps and the moon lifts softly over the hedges, the world turns silver and still. To human eyes, the robin becomes a shadow, a small shape perched on a branch, chest darkened by the absence of daylight. But to another robin passing by, that familiar red breast still glows faintly in the quiet night. It's a signal meant for bird eyes alone, a secret light we cannot see. The color that gives the robin its name isn't just red. Beneath that fiery hue lies a reflective layer that bounces back ultraviolet light, wavelengths invisible to us, but clear and bright to birds. Even under the moon, that hidden layer captures and scatters pale UV, allowing robins to recognize each other long after sunset. What looks muted and gray to us shimmers faintly in their world, a soft badge of identity. Birds see light differently from humans. While our eyes carry 3 color receptors, red, green, and blue, theirs carry 4, adding ultraviolet to the spectrum. That extra channel turns the ordinary into the radiant. To a robin, another's chest isn't merely red, it's layered with depth, tone, and ultraviolet shimmer. It's a small lantern of warmth against the cool backdrop of night. Scientists studying robins under UV-sensitive cameras found that even in dim light, their plumage reflects enough to be seen clearly by others of their kind.
It's more than beauty, it's communication. The faint glow helps mates or rivals identify each other during twilight hours, when songs still echo softly between trees. Territory, partnership, and recognition all depend on seeing what the dark hides from us. To imagine this hidden world is to realize how narrow our own vision is. We walk through moonlight thinking it gentle and colorless, while above and around us other eyes perceive a quiet brilliance, a luminous layer of the living world. Every feather, every petal, every glimmer of dew might look entirely different through those ultraviolet lenses. The robin's faint glow under moonlight reminds us that beauty doesn't disappear when we stop seeing it. It simply shifts into another language of light. A world can be full of color even in darkness, just not for us. So when you catch sight of a robin perched under the silver sky, know that it is not alone in its quiet glow. Somewhere nearby, another robin sees it clearly, its breast shining softly like an ember in the cool night air. Two small creatures in the dark, recognizing one another by light invisible to us, keeping their secret beneath the moon. In the soft light of early morning, when the air is still and the world hasn't quite decided to wake, a gentle sound drifts from the rooftops. Coo, coo, coo. It's the voice of a dove, and in that slow, rolling rhythm lies something deeper than song. Each coo is a breath of calm, for the bird itself and for those who listen. The dove's coo isn't just communication, it's a form of self-regulation. When scientists studied their calls, they found something remarkable. As the dove coos, its heart rate slows. Each note seems to soothe its own body, steadying breath and pulse. It's not an act of excitement, but of peace. The bird's calm voice literally creates calm within. The sound itself carries that same rhythm outward. Low-frequency tones, like the dove's coo, have a measurable effect on the human nervous system. They slow our breathing, lower blood pressure, and ease the heart's tempo ever so slightly. That's why the sound feels like morning softness made audible, gentle, familiar, impossible to rush. Even without understanding its language, our bodies recognize its intention. Be still. To doves, cooing is more than music. It's how they comfort mates, claim territory, and keep connection. Paired doves often sit close, exchanging quiet coos back and forth, not loud calls, but whispers of reassurance. Their bond deepens with these sounds, each one reaffirming presence and peace. It's a conversation made of rhythm instead of words. Their anatomy supports this serenity. Air passes slowly through their vocal cords, resonating in the chest cavity before leaving the beak. The result is a tone that carries warmth rather than force, a vibration that feels close, not far. Even when many doves coo together, the sound never becomes noise. It layers softly, like ripples overlapping on water. For humans, the dove's voice has symbolized peace for centuries, not only for its meaning, but for its effect. The sound itself resembles breathing, steady, circular, unhurried. It's almost as if the dove reminds us to inhale and exhale more slowly, to find the stillness we forget during the day. In the cool of dusk, when the air begins to dim again, their coos return, slower now, almost drowsy. One bird calls, and another answers, and between them hangs a rhythm older than memory. It isn't quite a song, and it isn't silence. It's the heartbeat of calm, made audible. If you listen long enough, you might feel your own breath matching theirs, deep, steady, quiet. The sound doesn't just pass through the air, it enters you, softening edges, slowing time. The dove coos once more, and somewhere in its chest and yours, the world beats a little more gently.
Each spring, as the trees begin to leaf and rivers loosen their ice, a familiar sound breaks the stillness. Cuckoo! Cuckoo! It's the voice of the cuckoo, carried across the air like the chime of a living clock. For centuries, people have marked the seasons by that call, knowing that when the cuckoo returns, the world is warming again. What most don't realize is that the bird's timing is nearly perfect. Year after year it arrives within the same week, guided by nothing we can see. The cuckoo's journey is long. Many species spend the year in Africa, then cross deserts, mountains, and oceans to reach Europe or Asia for breeding. It's a voyage of thousands of miles. Yet every spring, often within days of the same date, they reappear in the same valleys, the same forests, even the same trees. No calendar guides them. Their compass is the earth itself. Inside their small bodies lies a biological clock tuned not to numbers, but to rhythm, the length of daylight, the temperature of air, the invisible tug of magnetic fields. As the seasons shift, these cues awaken something ancient in them, a soft urgency that says, "Go now." They follow the path of the sun and the pulse of the planet, flying across continents with timing so precise it rivals the watches we build to measure time artificially. Scientists who have tracked cuckoos with tiny satellite tags have been astonished. Individual birds released thousands of miles apart often depart and arrive within days of each other, sometimes returning to the very same patch of forest. The precision doesn't waver even across years, as if their migration is written not just in memory, but in the turning of the earth itself. The cuckoo's punctuality has shaped folklore for centuries. In old Europe, the first cuckoo of spring was thought to predict fortune. Its arrival marked the true start of warmth, harvest, and renewal. Farmers listened to it as they might for the toll of a bell announcing a new season. Even the cuckoo clock, that quiet symbol of order, took its name from this bird that never loses track of time. But beyond all symbolism, the cuckoo's journey is something quietly humbling. It reminds us that time doesn't only exist on our wrists or calendars. It lives in wings, in instinct, in the returning of life to familiar places. The cuckoo doesn't measure days, it feels them. It trusts light and distance the way we trust routine. So when spring returns and you hear that clear rhythmic call echoing through the woods, know that it's not coincidence. It's precision born of nature, the steady heartbeat of migration, returning right on schedule as it has for countless years. The cuckoo's song isn't just sound,
It's time itself, calling home. Over the restless sea, the air is alive with movement, invisible waves rising from the water's surface. A lone seagull drifts above them, wings stretched wide, body almost motionless. It barely flaps, barely shifts, yet it stays suspended, held by something unseen. To watch it is to see the art of doing almost nothing, and doing it perfectly. Seagulls are masters of soaring flight. They understand the wind the way a swimmer understands water, feeling its weight and flow with every feather. Above cliffs, dunes, and open waves, columns of warm air, called updrafts, rise upward. The gull spreads its wings into these invisible streams and lets them carry its weight. Once caught, it tilts, adjusts a feather here or there, and glides effortlessly, held aloft by physics and patience. Its wings are designed for this quiet skill. Long and narrow, they create lift even at low speeds, allowing the gull to float for hours without tiring. Tiny adjustments, the angle of a primary feather, the curve of a wrist, keep it balanced. It isn't fighting gravity, it's cooperating with it, turning the pull of the earth and the breath of the air into harmony. Scientists who study birds call this dynamic soaring, a method that lets them travel vast distances with almost no energy. The gull senses the slightest change in pressure and rides it like a wave. It glides up one current, then dips gently to catch another, tracing invisible loops in the sky. To us, it looks like freedom. To the gull, it's understanding, the knowledge of how to rest while moving. When flocks gather near the coast, you can see dozens at once, circling without a sound, white wings glinting against blue. They seem motionless, yet their flight is full of tiny, precise decisions, instinct guided by centuries of adaptation. They waste nothing. Even stillness becomes a form of travel. There's something deeply peaceful in that. The idea that motion doesn't always mean effort, that sometimes balance is found by letting go. The gull doesn't struggle against the wind, it listens to it. It doesn't rush the sky, it waits for the right lift to carry it higher. And so it stays aloft, hour after hour, wings steady against the light. When evening falls, the sea reflects the colors of the sky, silver, rose, then deep blue. The gull drifts slower, gliding toward the waves. It folds its wings at the last moment, landing softly on the water that mirrors the air it once rode. There's no sound, no splash, just the faint ripple of rest. It has flown hundreds of miles without fatigue, powered by nothing but patience and wind. In a world that never stops moving, the seagull's grace reminds us that the greatest strength often comes from stillness and the quiet trust that the air will hold us when we stop trying so hard to fly.
In a quiet living room, a song begins to play. Steady beat, soft melody. Before the second measure, a bright green parrot lifts its head, tilts to one side, and begins to dance. Its claws tap the perch in time. Its head bobs, feathers fluff, and eyes gleam with excitement. No one taught it this. It simply hears the rhythm and moves.
Parrots are among the few creatures on Earth that respond to music spontaneously. They don't need rewards, cues, or training. When they hear rhythm, they move to it, keeping time as though they were born to do so. Scientists first noticed this behavior after watching viral videos of parrots swaying to pop songs. But the truth runs much deeper than entertainment. It's built into their biology. Like humans, parrots are vocal learners. They can mimic sounds, speech, and melody, abilities that depend on precise timing within the brain. That same neural network allows them to detect rhythm and predict beats ahead of time. So when music begins, something in them recognizes structure, the invisible pulse that turns sound into pattern. Their bodies can't help but join in. In laboratory studies, parrots like the famous Snowball, a sulfur-crested cockatoo, have shown that they can adjust their movements to match changing tempos. When the music speeds up, they move faster. When it slows, they follow. They're not guessing, they're feeling. This kind of synchronization was once thought to belong only to humans and a few primates, but parrots proved otherwise. Rhythm lives in feathers, too. What's even more enchanting is the emotion behind it. When a parrot dances, it isn't acting out of instinct alone. It seems genuinely engaged, enjoying the act, the sound, the shared energy. Owners often describe them as joyful, their movements playful, spontaneous, full of character. It's not performance, it's participation. In the wild, this connection might have deeper roots. Parrots use rhythm and mimicry to bond with their flocks, keeping calls in sync, matching timing like a choir of wings. Their social lives depend on coordination, and rhythm may be the heartbeat of that harmony. To think that a creature from the forests of South America or the islands of Indonesia can find pleasure in the same pulse that makes us tap our feet, it's quietly profound. It means that somewhere, deep in the biology of life, rhythm is shared. It's not taught or learned, it's felt. When the song ends, the parrot tilts its head, waiting. Then the next song begins, and once again it sways, freely, joyfully, perfectly in time. A small dancer in a feathered costume, proving that the language of movement belongs not to humans alone, but to the rhythm of the living world itself. In the soft morning shade, the blackbird looks as simple as its name, dark feathers, dark eyes, blending easily with earth and branches. But then a beam of sunlight catches its wing, and suddenly it glows. A shimmer of blue slides across the surface like liquid, deepening to violet before vanishing again. It's there only for a moment, beauty made of light, not color. What we see as black on a blackbird isn't truly black at all. Underneath, each feather hides microscopic layers that bend and reflect light, splitting it into different wavelengths. This phenomenon, called structural iridescence, is the same science behind the colors of peacocks, hummingbirds, and butterfly wings. But in the blackbird, it's quiet, almost secret. Only the right angle reveals it. Only the sun can wake it. Unlike pigments, which absorb certain colors and reflect others, structural colors are built from shape. Tiny ridges and air pockets in the feather's surface act like mirrors and prisms, bouncing light waves back and forth until they interfere with each other. Some wavelengths cancel out, others amplify. The result? A flash of pure, vivid hue that seems to come from nowhere. Move slightly, and it disappears again. Not gone, just hidden from view. In nature, this subtle shimmer has purpose as well as poetry. While peacocks or starlings use bright iridescence for display, blackbirds wear theirs like a whisper, a signal seen clearly only by other birds. To human eyes, they look plain. To one another, they carry glimmers of color that mark age, health, and vitality. It's communication written in wavelengths beyond our grasp. There's something humble yet luminous in that, a reminder that even the simplest creatures are not what they first appear to be. A blackbird in sunlight is not just black, it's a living prism. A moment of light transforms it from shadow into spectrum. Scientists studying feather structures under microscopes often describe them as miniature architecture, delicate layers of keratin and air, shaped precisely enough to play with light. No pigment could ever reproduce that kind of brilliance. Nature's physics turned into art. When evening comes and the light fades again, the shimmer vanishes. The bird returns to quiet darkness, slipping through branches unnoticed. But the potential for radiance remains, waiting, patient, unbothered by whether anyone sees it. Perhaps that's the truest kind of beauty, the kind that doesn't need to be constant or loud or seen by all. It lives quietly within, ready to reveal itself when the world turns just right. And so the blackbird keeps its secret, a hidden sky of blue tucked inside every feather, shining only when the sun remembers to look. High above the fields, a faint sound moves through the air. Not one voice, but many, layered and soft, echoing like breath on wind. A flock of geese glides in perfect V formation, wings beating in rhythm. From below, it looks like silence in motion. But listen closely, and you'll hear something more intimate, the gentle murmuring of friendship. Geese are social creatures in a way that feels almost human. Within their flocks, they form lifelong bonds, pairs, families, and close companions who remain together across seasons. Even during migration, when they travel thousands of miles across shifting skies, they stay near those they know, their voices weaving through the wind to keep each other close. When one goose calls mid-flight, the others answer, not loudly, but softly, a steady stream of sound that keeps the formation synchronized. Each call carries meaning, reassurance, alignment, encouragement. The lead bird feels the hardest wind and tires first. When it falls back, another quietly takes its place. Through sound alone, they share balance, trust, and rhythm. Scientists studying these flocks have found that the calls geese make in flight aren't random. They are specific tones used to coordinate movement and maintain emotional contact, a constant dialogue in the air. You might think of it as conversation through distance. One voice saying, "I'm here," another answering, "I'm with you." Even when fatigue sets in, their steady murmuring helps each bird endure the journey. And when one becomes injured or too tired to continue, it never falls alone. Two companions break formation and glide down with it, staying beside their friend until it recovers or until the end. Then, together, they rejoin another flock. That loyalty is not instinct alone. It's care written into flight itself. The geometry of their travel mirrors that same companionship. In the V shape, each goose flies just behind and slightly above another, catching the lift of air from the wings ahead. This shared energy reduces effort for the group as a whole, a perfect blend of physics and fellowship. They take turns leading and resting, moving as one mind, one breath, one heartbeat stretched across the sky. When they return north in spring, they find the same wetlands, the same lakes, the same companions waiting. Pairs greet each other with low, rhythmic calls, like whispers exchanged after months apart. It's a reunion not in words, but in resonance. At sunset, when a flock passes overhead, their shapes outlined in fading light, listen to that faint honking drift through the distance. It's not just navigation, it's friendship at 3,000 feet, warmth carried across cold wind. The sound fades slowly, leaving the air still and full of meaning. Proof that even in the vastness of the sky, no one truly flies alone. Over the glittering sea, the air hums with salt and wind. A shadow circles high above the waves, silent and steady. Then, without warning, it dives, wings folding, eyes locked, body cutting through sunlight like an arrow. This is the osprey, the fisher of the sky. It plunges toward the water with speed and certainty, talons stretched forward. The surface breaks in a burst of silver spray. When it rises again, a fish gleams between its claws, still struggling, shining like a shard of sun. Few hunters on earth combine such precision, strength, and grace. The secret lies in the osprey's feet. Unlike most birds, the osprey has reversible outer toes. Where other raptors grip with 3 toes forward and 1 back, the osprey can rotate 1 toe to hold 2 forward, 2 backward, forming a perfect X-shaped grasp. This allows it to clutch slippery fish from any angle, locking its prey securely even as it lifts from the water's drag. Tiny barbs line its talon pads, gripping scales like hooks on silk. It is engineering so precise it borders on art. Every part of the osprey's body works in harmony for this single purpose. Its nostrils close upon impact with water, protecting it from the splash. Its wings curve forward as it lifts off, shaking droplets mid-flight. Even its feathers are specially oiled to resist soaking, allowing it to rise heavy with prey, yet unburdened by water. Each catch is a test of balance, strength against gravity, air against sea. Scientists studying ospreys have recorded their success rate at nearly 70%, astonishing for a hunter that dives from heights of up to 40 meters. But perhaps the most elegant detail is what happens next. Once the bird steadies in the air, it rotates the fish in its claws so that the head faces forward, aligning it perfectly with the wind. This reduces drag, making flight easier and faster, a pilot's instinct built into instinct itself. It's no wonder many cultures have called the osprey a symbol of precision and clarity, a creature that sees, acts, and trusts its own design. Its eyes are made to filter light through water's distortion, its body timed to strike at exactly the right moment between reflection and reality. Nothing is wasted. At dusk, when the waves soften and the sky burns gold, an osprey circles again, patient, poised, endless in its rhythm. Each dive is the same, yet never the same. A lifetime of practice refined by generations before it. When it rises with another flash of silver, the sea drips from its wings like jewels. There is no triumph, no struggle, only balance, perfection, quiet and complete, written on air and water.